Chapter 2379. Wouldn't I lose face if I put down my storage bag just because you asked me to? Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, if you guys have the time to do that, you should hurry up and improve your strength. Otherwise, you'll end up like Chen Bo when you meet me at the Cliff Festival. We'll end up like me? At this moment. Chen Bo said from afar, although we didn't kill each other in the life and death duel, according to the rules, you should kill yourself or stand still and let me kill you if you lose. Why are you going back on your word? As they spoke, Chen Bo even looked at the Western Venerable One, trying to force him to fulfill his promise. Western Venerable One, how do you think we should settle this? The Eastern Venerable One also looked at the Western Venerable One and said, Ningyu lost to Chen Bo, but not only did he not admit defeat, he became even more arrogant. If you're not willing to fight, I can clean up the mess for West City. Hee hee. Ningyu laughed. What was arrogance? What was admitting defeat? I didn't lose, so why should I admit defeat? What are you laughing at? Chen Bo said fiercely, you can still act so nonchalantly after losing. I have to say that you're the most… Stop. Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted Chen Bo. He said calmly, actually, you're already dead. Sun He and the others from West City were speechless when they heard Ningyu say that Chen Bo was dead. Some of them even took a few steps back, not wanting to be associated with Ningyu. Chen Bo was standing right in front of him, but he said that he was dead in front of him. Was that really okay? Ha ha ha. Chen Bo was stunned at first, then he threw his head back and laughed maniacally. I've seen stupid people, but I've never seen someone like you. Fart. However, before Chen Bo could finish his sentence, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura began to decline rapidly. What's going on? I don't know. Is Chen Bo sick? Get lost. How could he be sick? He's clearly injured. How is this possible? How could Chen Bo be injured? Didn't he defeat Ningyu? This time, the 4 Eastern City martial artists began to panic. Chen Bo's condition combined with Ningyu's words. Could it be? Was Chen Bo really dead? Whoosh. As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, the expressions of the 4 cultivators from Oriental City changed drastically. If Chen Bo was really dead, they probably wouldn't have a good ending if they encountered Ningyu. After all, Ningyu had only used 1 punch against Chen Bo. Chen Bo's eyes widened, and he looked like he was about to collapse. He stretched out his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. He wanted to say something harsh, but before he could finish, his body suddenly fell backwards. Bang! His body hit the ground. Chen Bo died tragically on the spot. Hiss! Chen Bo's death caused the surrounding cultivators, including those from Western City, to inhale a mouthful of cold air. Was Chen Bo really dead? You should know. The life and death duel between Ningyu and Chen Bo ended with just 1 punch. Furthermore, just a moment ago, Chen Bo was still alive and kicking, mocking Ningyu. How did he die just after turning around? Good. The Western supremacy did not care how Chen Bo had died. All he thought was that he should be happy that Ningyu had won. The Western Venerable Lord repeated the word good 3 times. He patted Ningyu's shoulder and said, the 1002 realm stones are what you deserve. Also, since you've killed Chen Bo, according to our agreement, everything on him belongs to you as well. Take off your clothes. All right. Ningyu nodded and walked towards Chen Bo step by step. Swish 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 swish. Seeing Ningyu walking towards Chen Bo, the 4 Dongfang City martial artists hurriedly stood in front of Chen Bo. What do you want? Chen Bo is already dead. Don't tell me you still want to insult his corpse. That's right. Chen Bo was already pitiful enough to be killed by you. How could you do this? Get out of here, or the 4 of us won't be polite anymore. Hearing the voices of the 4 Dongfang City martial artists, Ningyu's face darkened. Insult. How dare you use this word? Aren't you ashamed? I killed Chen Bo, so I should take away everything on him. You're not insulting Chen Bo, but me. Boom. The furious Ningyu instantly unleashed his aura. However, Ningyu did not unleash the aura of a 2nd stage half-step immortal king. Instead, he unleashed the aura of a 5th stage half-step immortal king. This aura was just right. It was enough to suppress the 4 Dongfang City martial artists without causing them to make a move. A 5th stage half-step immortal king? Little did they know. As soon as Ningyu unleashed his aura, the 4 Dongfang City martial artists were overjoyed. They thought that Ningyu's strength was strong. At least, his strength was comparable to a 3rd stage half-step immortal king martial artist. Originally, they had lost the confidence to fight with Ningyu. But now, Ningyu only unleashed a 5th stage half-step immortal king's aura, and they felt that their hope had come. The short-haired martial artist even had some ideas. He wanted to have a life-and-death duel with Ningyu and defeat Ningyu. Then, the 1002 realm stones that Ningyu had just obtained, as well as the magic treasures on him, would all belong to him. However, the short-haired martial artist did not dare to make a move. A life-and-death duel. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Ningyu moved his feet and soon arrived in front of Chen Bo. He squatted down and began to search Chen Bo's body. After a while, a black bead appeared in Ningyu's hand. Without too much observation, Ningyu shook his wrist and threw the black bead into his arms. Although he did not observe much, Ningyu could basically be sure. The power of the black bead should be comparable to that of the golden token. If it unleashed its greatest power, it could defeat and even kill a 5th stage half-step immortal king. So poor. Unfortunately, apart from the black bead, Ningyu only found 102 realm stones and some scattered magic treasures and elixirs on Chen Bo. At this point, Ningyu had a total of 1,403 realm stones. Even Wu Xiong and Lu Zhanfei were a little tempted by so many 2 realm stones. One of them was a 5th stage half-step immortal king, and the other was a 4th stage half-step immortal king. They already had 2 realm stones. If they added Ningyu's 2 realm stones, then they would have a great chance to become a real immortal king. Of course, they were just thinking about it. Ningyu had the protection of the Western Venerable, and Tai Muqiang. Even if they had 10 guts, they would not dare to go against Ningyu. Clothes. Ningyu got up and stared at Chen Bo's clothes. He rested his chin on his right hand, as if he was thinking about whether to take it off. Don't go too far. Seeing Ningyu's action, the short-haired martial artist took a step forward and said fiercely, "If you dare to take off Chen Bo's clothes, I will fight you to the death. I can fight you to the death. I will not refuse 1,002 realm stones," Ningyu said without turning his head. Then, he squatted down again and reached out to take off Chen Bo's clothes. Because Ningyu realized. Chapter 2380. If Chen Bo wasn't wearing an Immortal King level armor, then Ningyu definitely wouldn't risk offending the Eastern Venerable by taking off his clothes. However, the Immortal King level armor was a huge boost to Ningyu. It could be said that, without wearing the Immortal King level armor, Ningyu's current overall strength could contend with and even kill a 2nd stage half-step Immortal King. However, once he wore the Immortal King level armor, even if he met a 2nd stage half-step Immortal King, he would be able to contend with it easily. Stop right now. The short-haired martial artist took a step forward and released his aura, crazily pressing towards Ningyu. Moreover, the short-haired martial artist took out his flying sword, wanting to attack Ningyu. That's enough. At this moment, the Eastern Venerable said calmly, "You've already killed Chen Bo, why are you being disrespectful to him? You can't say that." Before Ningyu could answer, the Western Venerable's voice slowly sounded. "If the one who died was Ningyu, in my opinion, Chen Bo would definitely do the same. In a battle of life and death, it's all up to fate. Moreover, we've agreed beforehand that everything on the person who died would belong to the winning party. I want to ask, did Ningyu win or did Chen Bo win?" "You." The words of the Western Venerable made the Eastern Venerable speechless. Indeed, the winner was Ningyu. According to the agreement, everything on Chen Bo's body belonged to Ningyu. However, being stripped in front of so many people was equivalent to slapping his face. The most important thing was, the force behind Chen Bo wasn't weak. The Chen family was a big family in the Eastern City. There was a real Immortal King in the family. The reason why he didn't follow this time was because the Immortal King had just entered the Immortal Court a few days ago and hadn't returned yet. Otherwise, Ningyu killed Qian Bo, the immortal king of the Qian family would definitely not let it go. Isn't it just an armor? The Eastern Venerable's face was cold as he flicked his wrist and threw an armor to Ningyu. Swish. Immediately after, without waiting for Ningyu and the others to react, the Eastern Venerable one brought Qian Bo's corpse into the city. The Western Venerable would not allow the armor to fly to Ningyu. His figure flashed, and he first removed the distance on the armor before throwing it to Ningyu. Thank you. Receiving the armor, Ningyu expressed his thanks and put it on. Ningyu was not worried about the armor, because he had Immortal King Tai Muqiang and Western Reverend Immortal King on his side. The two great celestial kings were here. If there was a problem with the armor, they would definitely notice. You've killed Qian Bo. When you enter Broken Cliff City later, try to keep a low profile, the Western supremacy reminded him. The Qian clan is a great clan, and they have an immortal king. Celestial king? Ningyu's expression was grave. With his current strength, let alone a high immortal king, even a 5th stage half-step immortal king would have to suffer grievances. If the Qian clan's immortal king attacked him, he would definitely end up in a miserable state. However, the Western supremacy's next words made Ningyu relax a little. Don't worry. The Qian clan's immortal king has gone to the immortal court. He won't be back for a while. The Western supremacy said. After entering Broken Cliff City, you just need to keep a low profile. If anyone dares to bully you, you can fight back. With Tai Muqiang and me around, no one in Broken Cliff City will dare to do anything to you. Ningyu nodded. He knew very well that the Western supremacy wanted to rely on him to suppress the Eastern City. In other words, he wanted to rely on him to obtain first place in the Broken Cliff gathering. As for Tai Muqiang's thoughts, he was temporarily unable to guess. In short, he was very useful to both Tai Muqiang and the Western supremacy. Under such circumstances, Tai Muqiang and the Western supremacy would definitely protect him and prevent him from getting hurt. Let's go to Broken Cliff Plaza first. The Western supremacy patted Ningyu's shoulder and walked straight towards Broken Cliff City. Broken Cliff Plaza. Located in the center of Broken Cliff City, it was the largest plaza in Broken Cliff City. In the past, Broken Cliff Plaza had always been deserted, with few people coming and going. But today, Broken Cliff Plaza was obviously very lively. There was no other reason. Today, on Broken Cliff Plaza, there would be a grand gathering. Broken Cliff Gathering. Generally speaking, the time of the Broken Cliff Gathering was not fixed. As long as the Broken Cliff City Lord was willing, it could be held 3 to 4 times a month. But this time, the Broken Cliff Gathering was known as the most spectacular Broken Cliff Gathering in history, according to the rules that were revealed beforehand. Western City, Eastern City, Northern City, and Southern City, the 4 major cities would send a total of 20 experts who were below level 1/2 step to Immortal King Realm to participate in the gathering. The 20 experts would fight in pairs. The winner would advance to the next round, while the loser would be eliminated. In the end, 5 experts would be selected to compete with the 5 experts from Broken Cliff City for the final competition to fight for first place. It was said that the Broken Cliff City Lord placed great importance on this Broken Cliff gathering. The reward for the champion had also been increased from 1,002 realm stones to 2,002 realm stones. Moreover, he would personally impart his skills to the champion, reward him with 3 Immortal King elixirs and 3 days of cultivation in the Broken Cliff Pool. One had to know. The Broken Cliff Pool was a sacred place for cultivation. It was a place that even immortal kings dreamed of. As long as one was not an idiot, cultivating in it for 3 days would increase his or her cultivation by 1 or 2 levels. Sho. At the same time, at the entrance of the Broken Cliff Plaza, Ningyu, the Western Venerable, and the rest were walking over slowly, looking carefully. The number of people in Ningyu's group had significantly decreased. Among them, Wu Xiong, Lu Zhanfei, Wang Yu, and even Tai Muqiang were nowhere to be seen. The 4 of them were hiding in the void, paying close attention to the changes in their surroundings to prevent people from other cities from causing trouble. After all, such things had happened before. During the first few sessions of the Broken Cliff Grand Meet, the Eastern City had ruthlessly killed a peerless genius from the Western City. Because of this, Western City was ranked last in that year's Cliffside Grand Meeting. Therefore, this time, the Western Venerable was extra careful. He asked Tai Muqiang and the rest to hide in the void, just in case. Ningyu, you must have found a lot of good stuff from Qianbo, right? You see, I used up tens of thousands of talismans to cover you during your Heavenly Lord tribulation. Why don't you share some with me? Since he had nothing to do, Lin Lang moved to Ningyu's side and said sneakily, "Do you really want it?" Ningyu said, 102 realm stones. Give me 102 realm stones and I will give you all the Dharma treasures and elixirs I found from Qianbo that good. Lin Lang was suspicious. There must be something wrong when something was out of the ordinary. Based on his understanding of Ningyu, Ningyu would not be so kind. It's up to you. Ningyu shrugged and said nonchalantly. Anyway, Lin Lang had a lot of good stuff. It would be good if he could extort 102 realm stones from him. Ningyu's indifference made Lin Lang somewhat hesitant. A while later. Chapter 2381. Ascension Pill Swish. Ningyu's face darkened when he heard Lin Lang's words. He glared at Lin Lang and said coldly, "You were so hesitant when I asked you to give me 3 immortal court tokens. Why do you have 82 realm stones now? Go away, I will keep Qianbo's things. I won't give them to you." "Don't." Lin Lang said hurriedly, "I will give you 102 realm stones." Ningyu hesitated when he saw Lin Lang's eagerness. Could it be? Qianbo really had something good that he had overlooked. At the thought of this, Ningyu released his perception and started to detect what he had found on Qianbo's shit. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't taken a look, but the moment he did, he was shocked. Ningyu was shocked. Fortunately, Lin Lang reminded him. Otherwise, he would have missed something good. Ascension Pill. Qianbo had a peerless elixir. As the name suggested, Ascension Pill could unconditionally raise a martial artist's level. To put it simply, Qianbo's previous cultivation base was half a step to the Immortal King realm. If he consumed the Ascension Pill, his cultivation base would soar to the second step to the Immortal King realm. Obviously, Qianbo wanted to keep the Ascension Pill as his trump card and suddenly consume it at the Cliff Gathering. According to the rules, all the martial artists who participated in the Cliff Gathering could not exceed the first step to the Immortal King realm. Breaking through in the middle of a battle was allowed. Therefore, many martial artists would prepare elixirs to raise their cultivation base and seek breakthroughs during the competition. However, there were very few people like Qianbo who carried the Ascension Pill with him. After all, not everyone had the backing of an immortal king like Qianbo. Lin Lang should have a special method to detect the aura of the Ascension Pill. Ningyu rolled his eyes and thought to himself, coincidentally, I can keep the Ascension Pill. In this way, I can swindle 102 realm stones. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately said to Lin Lang, "Give me 102 realm stones first, then I will give you the Dharma treasure and elixir." This, Lin Lang hesitated. He wasn't sure if Ningyu knew about the promotion pill or not. It would be fine if Ningyu didn't know, but if Ningyu knew, then he would really suffer a double loss. Gritting his teeth, Lin Lang finally threw a storage bag to Ningyu. After checking the storage bag and confirming that there were 102 realm stones in it, Ningyu threw the Dharma treasures and elixirs to Lin Lang. Catcher. At the same time that he threw the pill to Lin Lang, Ningyu took advantage of the moment when Lin Lang was unprepared and suddenly threw the Ascension Pill into his mouth and chewed it. For Qianbo, he might not be able to take the Ascension Pill in advance. But for Ningyu, there was no need to worry about this at all. Because his cultivation was only at the pseudo-half-step Immortal King realm. Boom! The advancement pill entered his mouth. It flowed down his throat and into Ningyu's stomach. Ningyu continued to circulate his Heart Sutra as he began to refine the medicinal efficacy of the Ascension Pill. Very soon, the aura on Ningyu's body soared rapidly. Not long after, it soared from the pseudo-half-step Immortal King realm to the peak half-step Immortal King realm. As Ningyu hurriedly suppressed his aura, No one around him, including the Western supremacy and Lin Lang, could see anything wrong. As for Lin Lang, after he received the Dharma treasures and elixirs that Ningyu threw to him, he did not even check them and directly threw them into his arms, afraid that Ningyu would go back on his words. Idiot. Ningyu rolled his eyes. Lin Lang's biggest mistake was not checking them. 102 realm stones for 1 ascension pill. If he was not afraid that Lin Lang would flip out, Ningyu would definitely give him a kind reminder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. On the other side, Ningyu had just raised his cultivation to the peak half-step immortal king realm. A few martial artists appeared in front of him. It's him. He killed Chen Bo. Ningyu recognized one of the martial artists. It was the short-haired martial artist who wanted to spar with him previously. At this moment, the short-haired martial artist pointed at Ningyu and introduced him to the martial artist beside him. At that time, Chen Bo had already surrendered, but he still attacked relentlessly. Eventually, Chen Bo was killed. Ningyu's mouth was slightly agape. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as this short-haired martial artist. Did he really think that he was a pushover? For city lords, please come to the pavilion. At this moment, a powerful voice suddenly sounded in the air above the square. The Western supremacy glanced at the short-haired martial artist before stepping on the ground and rushing towards the pavilion in the middle of the square. You killed Chen Bo. As soon as the Western supremacy left, the middle-aged man beside the short-haired martial artist started to make things difficult for him. He looked at Ningyu from head to toe and said, Chen Bo is a member of our Chen family. You killed him, which means that you are going against our Chen family. How about this? I'm not an unreasonable person. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Then, cripple your cultivation and sea of consciousness, and this matter will be over. Swoosh. The words of the middle-aged man made the surrounding martial artists retreat. This kind of thing would always happen in the Cliff's Grand Meeting. Other than sparring between the 4 major cities, the Cliff's Grand Meeting would also allow people to settle personal grudges. Over the years, this had become an unwritten rule. Obviously, the surrounding martial artists recognized the middle-aged man. The Chen family had an immortal king and was one of the top families in the Oriental city. Now that the Chen family was handling matters, they had to give way. That martial artist is just a pseudo-half-step immortal king. He offended the Chen family and is destined to die a tragic death. Isn't it so? Last time, there was a second-stage pseudo-half-step immortal king expert who offended the Chen family. It was Chen Feng who appeared and killed him. Let's make a bet. Let's see how many moves Chen Feng will use to kill this pseudo-half-step immortal king. The surrounding martial artists discussed animatedly. Because Ningyu hid his aura, their understanding of Ningyu was still at the pseudo-half-step immortal king realm. Do you need our help? Sun He and Zhu Ziyi took a step forward and came to Ningyu's side. They asked, the opponent is Chen Feng, a second-stage pseudo-half-step immortal king. No need. Ningyu waved his hand and said, it's fine if he doesn't provoke me. If he provokes me, I'll make him suffer the consequences. After swallowing the ascension pill and advancing to the peak of the pseudo-half-step immortal king realm, Ningyu's comprehensive strength had a qualitative leap. Without using the immortal king battle armor, he could kill a third-stage pseudo-half-step immortal king expert. If he used the immortal king battle armor, even a 3-5-stage pseudo-half-step immortal king was no match for him. What was even more exaggerated was that Ningyu still had 2 absolute trump cards, the black bead and the golden token. With these trump cards, unless he encountered a immortal king expert, he had nothing to fear. Then you're on your own. Sun He and Zhu Ziyi did not stay for long. They immediately retreated and made space for Ningyu and Chen Feng. You're very arrogant. The corners of Chen Feng's mouth curled up, and he said sinisterly, a pseudo-half-step immortal king dares to talk to me like this. I have to say, you're really arrogant. I don't need you to judge whether I'm arrogant or not, but I'm very clear that your brain is probably damaged. While they were talking, Ningyu's aura suddenly burst out. Chapter 2382. Unable to withstand a single blow. Fart. Feeling the peak half-step immortal king aura emanating from Ning Yu, Chen Feng couldn't help but laugh out loud on the spot. He had thought that Ning Yu would have some big moves, but it turned out that he was just a wax figure with a silver spear. Not to mention that Ning Yu was a peak half-step immortal king. Even if Ning Yu was the same as him, a second-stage half-step immortal king, he wouldn't be afraid. After all, his status in the Chen family was very high, and he had a lot of trump cards. Simply put, he could easily kill a 5-stage half-step celestial king, and this was the reason why he came to find Ning Yu. What a joke, a mere peak half-step immortal king has the nerve to show off in front of Chen Feng. Yeah, if I were him, I would definitely kneel in front of Chen Feng. How can you kneel? You have to kowtow a few times. Hehe, it was similar to Chen Feng's reaction. The surrounding martial artists mocked him. In their opinion, the result of the battle between Ning Yu, a peak half-step immortal king, and Chen Feng, a second-stage half-step immortal king, was already destined. Unless a miracle happened. Otherwise, Ning Yu would definitely die. Ning Yu, have you thought about it? Chen Feng turned to look at Ning Yu and said lightly, surrender, destroy your cultivation, kowtow to me a few times, or, speaking of this. Chen Feng paused for a moment. Following this, a terrifying aura was emitted from his body. Boom. His aura was extremely terrifying, reaching the second-stage half-step immortal king realm. Obviously, Chen Feng wanted to use his aura to oppress Ning Yu and defeat Ning Yu by force. It had to be said. Chen Feng obviously didn't take Ning Yu seriously. Although his aura was that of a second-stage half-step immortal king, Ning Yu could kill Chen Bo, who was a first-stage half-step immortal king realm, more or less showed that he had some trump cards. It was very difficult to defeat Ning Yu with aura alone. Ning Yu snorted coldly when he saw Chen Feng unleashing his aura. Immediately, he took a step forward, clenched his right hand into a fist and violently smashed it towards Chen Feng. Ning Yu didn't even need to use his immortal king battle armor to deal with a second-stage half-step immortal king. Ning Yu was very clear about this. This was the Broken Cliff Plaza. As the trump card of West City, the battle between him and Chen Feng would definitely be watched by many. Under such circumstances, using a trump card would be a foolish choice. You overestimate yourself. When Chen Feng saw that Ning Yu was not afraid of his oppressive aura and instead clenched his fist and punched over, Chen Feng's face instantly became gloomy. Stepping on the ground, Chen Feng borrowed the momentum and threw out a punch as well. Chen Feng did not hold back in this punch. He gathered all the energy in his body into his fist. He could tell. Chen Feng wanted to defeat Ning Yu with one punch. Catcher. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. In the blink of an eye, Chen Feng's fist collided with Ning Yu's fist. The two fists collided. A crisp cracking sound rang out. Then, Ning Yu stood where he was without moving. On the other hand, Chen Feng's body was sent flying backward. Catcher. Catcher. His body hit the ground, and several bones in his body were broken on the spot. After succeeding in one move, Ning Yu did not continue to attack. Instead, he stopped. But at this moment, Sun his reminder rang in Ning Yu's ears. You and Chen Feng are having a life-and-death battle. You can kill him. Hearing Sun his reminder, Ning Yu thought for a moment and felt that it was reasonable, so he hurriedly dashed out. In fact, Ning Yu's original idea was to keep Chen Feng alive for the time being and use him to threaten the Chen family to see if he could get more benefits. After all, Chen Feng was only a second-stage half-step immortal king. He should not have brought too many things with him. However, since Ning Yu had decided to attack, he naturally would not show any mercy. In the blink of an eye, he came to Chen Feng's side and punched out, directly smashing Chen Feng's head. Then, Ning Yu squatted beside Chen Feng and began to search his body. After a while, Ning Yu retracted his palm, his face was full of regret. It was no different from what he had guessed. Chen Feng, who was a second-stage half-step immortal king, only had a few 2-realm stones on him. As for the rest, there was nothing. Sigh, what a poor ghost. Ning Yu put the 2-realm stones in his arms and rolled his eyes. Swoosh. The surrounding martial artists were speechless when they heard Ningyu's words. You killed someone and still said that he was a poor ghost. However, these people only dared to think about it in their hearts. With their strength, conflict with Ningyu now was undoubtedly courting death. After all, Chen Feng, who was a second-stage half-step immortal king, was easily killed by Ningyu. Let's go. On the other side. Seeing that Chen Feng was killed in an instant, the short-haired martial artist from Oriental City immediately chose to escape. He had already clashed with Ningyu at the entrance of Broken Cliff City. Now, he brought Chen Feng to find trouble. If Ningyu were to attack him, he would definitely have to bear the consequences. At this time, escaping was the best choice. As long as he escaped to the stronghold of Oriental City, Ningyu would not dare to do anything to him. Swoosh. However, it was obviously too late for the short-haired martial artist to escape at this time. Ningyu's figure flashed and appeared in front of him in an instant, blocking his way. What do you want? The short-haired martial artist was shocked, but on the surface, he pretended to be very calm and said, I just came to watch the show. The fierce battle between you and Chen Feng has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with you? The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up slightly. He pointed to the other Chen family martial artists and said, all of you, come here. Sho. Among the remaining martial artists of Chen family, the highest cultivation was only at the peak of half-step immortal king. Their boss Chen Feng was killed. Even if they wanted to escape, they did not have the ability. Helpless, they could only follow Ningyu's instructions and came in front of Ningyu. I'm here to ask you a few questions. If you can answer them honestly, I can let you go. Ningyu said lightly. Are you serious? A peak of half-step immortal king of Chen family opened his eyes wide and said hurriedly, ask away. We will definitely tell you everything we know. The peak of half-step immortal king who spoke was called Chen Hao. Originally, Chen Hao thought that they would die without a doubt. However, there was always a glimmer of hope. Ningyu was obviously not a bloodthirsty person. Otherwise, they would have died long ago. How did you find me? Ningyu stretched out a finger and asked. It's a short-haired martial artist. He took the initiative to find Chen Feng and told him that you killed Chen Bo and that you were in a very bad state. Chen Hao said almost without thinking. In order to survive, Chen Hao could be said to have thrown caution to the wind. If he did not betray the short-haired martial artist, he would be the one who died. As the saying went, if you don't go to hell, who will go to hell? These words were Chen Hao's true thoughts. Very well, the second question. Ningyu nodded and continued, what is the cultivation of the strongest martial artist in Chen family? How many martial artists above stage 3? Chapter 2383. Go for wool and come home shorn. Ningyu cursed on the spot. Dozens of them. According to the ratio, there should be about 10 half-step to immortal king. The golden token and black bead are far from enough. Ningyu thought to himself, seems like I have to improve my cultivation base as soon as possible. If I can improve my cultivation base to half-step to immortal king realm, I won't have to fear half-step to 4 or even half-step to immortal king realm. Thinking of this, Ningyu said to Chen Hao, leave all the Dharma treasures and elixirs on you and get lost. All right. Chen Hao was overjoyed. He hurriedly put all the Dharma treasures and elixirs into his interspatial ring and threw them to Ningyu. The rest of the Chen clan's martial artists followed suit. Swish swish swish, leaving behind the Dharma treasures and elixirs, the Chen clan martial artists retreated. The short-haired martial artist wanted to fish in troubled waters but was stopped by Ningyu again. What are you trying to do? The short-haired martial artist said coldly, I am from Oriental City. Moreover, I didn't have a life-and-death duel with you. You can't kill me. Did I say I was going to kill you? Ningyu said indifferently, leave behind 1,002 realm stones and get lost. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. You are robbing me. The short-haired martial artist was furious. How could he have 1,002 realm stones? Moreover, even if he had them, he would never hand them over to Ningyu. What did 1,002 realm stones mean? With so many 2 realm stones, The short-haired martial artist could even improve his cultivation base to half-step to Immortal King Rel. I don't think so. Ning Yu was not angry. Instead, he moved his feet and walked towards the short-haired martial artist step by step. Dong, dong, dong. Ning Yu walked very slowly. However, every step he took was like a huge boulder that weighed thousands of kilograms smashing into the short-haired cultivator. All right. After a while, seeing that Ning Yu was only 3 steps away from the short-haired cultivator, the short-haired cultivator hurriedly said, I'm willing to give you 1,002 realm stones, but you have to give me some time. I'll gather them immediately. I can give you the time, but to prevent you from acting shamelessly, I want to leave something in your sea of consciousness. After finishing this sentence, Ning Yu did not wait for the short-haired cultivator to react. He flicked his wrist and a cold light entered the short-haired cultivator's sea of consciousness. What did you do to me? The short-haired martial artist turned pale with fright and hurriedly said, I've already promised to give you 1,002 realm stones. How can you go back on your word? Sorry, I'm not going back on my word. I'm just afraid that you'll go back on your word. Ning Yu shrugged and said, You have 10 minutes of time. If I don't see 1,002 dimension stones in 10 minutes, then the consequences you face will be extremely miserable. Whoosh. The short-haired martial artist was not an indecisive person. As soon as Ning Yu said those harsh words, he immediately got up and dashed towards the Oriental city's stronghold. 10 minutes to gather 1,002 realm stones. It might be more difficult for others. But for the short-haired martial artist, it was not very difficult. Ning Yu, how did you advance to the peak of half-step Celestial King? As soon as the short-haired martial artist left, Lin Lang came over and asked in confusion. At this time, Lin Lang had vaguely guessed something. But he was not very sure, because he did not see Ning Yu consume the ascension pill. I'm a genius. So what if I advance to the peak of half-step Celestial King? Ning Yu glared at Lin Lang and said, We haven't settled our score yet. You'd better behave yourself. How about we discuss something? Lin Lang was not angry after being glared at by Ning Yu. He said directly, Tell me how you can advance so quickly, and I'll give you 102 realm stones. Huh? Ning Yu was a little suspicious. Since when was Lin Lang so kind? 102 realm stones was not a small number. Lin Lang had just taken out 100. Could he still take out 100 now? Could it be? Lin Lang had over 10,002 realm stones on him? Thinking of this, Ning Yu looked at Lin Lang and sized him up. What are you doing? Lin Lang hurriedly retreated and looked at Ning Yu warily. I'm telling you, I'm not gay. Bastard. Ning Yu kicked Lin Lang and said, Give me all the 2 realm stones on you and I'll tell you why I can advance so quickly. No way. Lin Lang immediately rejected Ning Yu. What a joke. How many 2 realm stones did he have? Not to mention giving all of them to Ning Yu, even if he only gave him a third, he wouldn't be willing. Then I'm sorry. Ning Yu spread his hands, expressing his helplessness. Sho. At this moment, the short-haired martial artist who had left not long ago hurried back. It took less than 3 minutes for the short-haired martial artist to return. Ning Yu gave him 10 minutes, but he only used 3. It had to be said that the short-haired martial artist's desire to live was very strong. Here you go. After the short-haired martial artist returned, he did not waste any time talking to Ning Yu, and directly threw a space ring to Ning Yu. Swish. After throwing the space ring, the short-haired martial artist immediately turned and left. Pa. Ning Yu caught the space ring steadily and was about to throw it into the red demon sword. Ning Yu was not afraid that the short-haired martial artist would act shamelessly. Without a doubt, there must be 1,002 realm stones in the space ring. Hey, aren't you going to take a look? Seeing Ning Yu's actions, Lin Lang said in surprise, What if the short-haired martial artist is playing with you? Playing with me? Ning Yu pointed at his nose and said, Even if I gave him 10 guts, he wouldn't dare to play with me. That's not necessarily true. Lin Lang curled his lips. Come and check for me, see if he is playing with me. Ning Yu's eyes turned, and he took out the space ring from the red demon sword and casually threw it to Lin Lang. Catching the space ring, Lin Lang was slightly surprised. Was Ningyu not afraid that he would take the 2 realm stones for himself? With a suspicious attitude, Lin Lang extended his perception into the space ring. No problem. Feeling the 1,002 realm stones in the space ring, Lin Lang was a little puzzled. It didn't make sense. When the short-haired martial artist came, he clearly saw the corner of the other party's mouth curling into an evil smile. Could it be that the short-haired martial artist had masochistic tendencies? The more Lin Lang thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Swoosh! Suddenly, a cold gleam shot out from the space ring, shooting towards Lin Lang at a terrifying speed. F***CK the dark crystal. Seeing the cold gleam, Lin Lang shouted on the spot, "Ningyu, you set me up." Because Lin Lang had discovered it. The power of the cold gleam was extremely strong. Even a second-stage half-step immortal king would die if he encountered it. Looking at the situation, this was the root of the short-haired martial artist's evil smile. "Block it for me." At the critical moment, Lin Lang pretended to take out a talisman and threw it at the cold gleam. Boom! The talisman and the cold gleam exploded at the same time. The aftermath of the explosion rushed towards Lin Lang's chest. Being hit by the aftermath, Lin Lang directly retreated several feet before stabilizing his body. Other than his face being a little pale, Lin Lang was completely fine. His fine. Lin Lang's state surprised Ningyu. The cold gleam that was enough to kill a second-stage half-step immortal king was actually easily blocked by Lin Lang. Moreover, in that instant, he clearly sensed that Lin Lang was wearing a suit of armor. As expected. Chapter 2384. A challenge, of course there is. Lin Lang glared at Ningyu and said, "Did you already know there was a problem with the spatial ring? Are you trying to harm me?" Lin Lang was so angry that his nose was crooked. He did not bring many trump cards with him when he left the immortal court. He had used up many talismans and almost exposed his intermediate immortal king battle armor. To be honest, he was really afraid that he would expose all his trump cards if he stayed with Ningyu. "How would I know there was a problem?" Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "It's you who wanted to check for me. I didn't force you. How can you blame me?" Lin Lang was furious and said coldly, "I will confiscate the spatial ring. The 1,002 realm stones in it can make up for the trauma in my heart. I don't mind if you don't want me to follow you to the secret realm." Ningyu shrugged, indicating that it did not matter. Anyway, Lin Lang wanted him to go to the secret realm of the Endless Sky Immortal Kingdom. Unless Lin Lang felt that the items in the secret realm were not worth 1,002 realm stones, he would definitely hand over the stones obediently. As expected. Ningyu's guess was right. Lin Lang had a conflicted expression on his face. Very quickly, he threw the spatial ring to Ningyu and said fiercely, "You'd better use your full strength when we enter the mystic realm. Otherwise, I'll make you pay, pa." Catching the spatial ring, Ningyu threw it into the red demon sword. As for Lin Lang's threat, Ningyu pretended not to hear it. If there was good stuff in the secret realm, he would definitely take the initiative without Lin Lang saying anything. But if there was nothing in the secret realm, he would definitely not take the risk even if Lin Lang made things difficult for him. First of all, welcome to the cliff gathering. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in the sky above the cliff square. Whoosh! Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. Right above the cliff square, an old man in grey clothes was standing in the air. Obviously, the old man was Broken Cliff City's city lord, and his name was Xiao Duanya. I don't want to waste my breath. Now, I'll briefly introduce the rules of this cliff gathering. Xiao Duanya was not a chatterbox. He directly said in a clear voice, "The 20 ancient martial art practitioners who are participating in the Broken Cliff gathering will fight in pairs. The winner will advance to the next round, and the loser will be directly eliminated." The martial artists from the 4 major cities did not speak. They were already aware of this rule. Now that the Broken Cliff City Lord had said it again, they appeared very calm. Since ancient times, the winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. If they won, they would enter the next round. If they lost, they would be eliminated. There was nothing wrong with this rule. As long as you were strong enough, you would definitely be able to enter the next round, or even the final battle. According to this rule, 5 experts will be chosen and the 5 martial artists from Steep Cliff City will fight it out. During the conversation, Xiao Duanya clapped his hands. Swish, 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 swish. In an instant, 5 ancient martial art practitioners flew out and floated beside Xiao Duanya. First stage half-step Immortal King. When Ning Yu, who was in the plaza, felt the auras of the 5 cultivators beside Xiao Duanya, his expression changed slightly. Of course. The reason why Ning Yu's expression changed slightly was not because of the cultivation of the 5 ancient martial art practitioners, but because Ning Yu felt a palpitation from them. This feeling. Ning Yu had only encountered it when he was facing Immortal King level experts. These 5 ancient martial art practitioners from Steep Cliff City were definitely not Immortal Kings. From this, it could be seen that they were definitely hiding some kind of trump card. At this moment, Ning Yu could not help but start to suspect. Why did Xiao Duanya want to hold a Broken Cliff Grand Meeting and change the rules of the competition? It had to be known. In the past Broken Cliff Grand Meeting, although the scale was smaller, it was completely different from this one. He shook his head. Ning Yu forced himself to calm down. No matter what, he would deal with the situation as it came. He had Tai Muqiang and the Western Venerable backing him up. The Broken Cliff City Lord probably would not dare to do anything to him. Now, I announce that the competition begins. As Ning Yu was thinking, Xiao Duanya's voice stopped abruptly. Crack, 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 crack. Immediately after, 4 huge circular arenas slowly rose from the ground of the Broken Cliff Square. After a while, the circular arenas rose completely. Swish. As soon as the arenas stabilized, a martial art practitioner jumped up and said in a deep voice, "I am Li Shueba from North City. If any of you find me an eyesore, you can come up and challenge me." Swish. As soon as Li Shueba finished speaking, another arena was occupied by a young martial art practitioner dressed in white. Similarly, the white-clothed martial art practitioner said in a deep voice, "I am Liu Kan from South City. If any of you find me an eyesore, you can come up and challenge me. I guarantee that I will spare your life." What was different from Li Shueba was that the white-clothed martial art practitioner released his aura while he was speaking. Rank 1 Peak Half-Step Immortal King. The white-clothed martial art practitioner's cultivation had reached the rank 1 Peak Half-Step Immortal King realm. On Oriental City's side, the short-haired martial art practitioner looked at the other 4, then clenched his teeth and jumped onto the arena. Actually, the original leader of Oriental City was Qian Bo. Since Qian Bo had been killed, the short-haired martial art practitioner had no choice but to take his place. Although Oriental Venerable had found another young martial art practitioner to make up for the 5 participants, the short-haired martial art practitioner did not think that the young martial art practitioner would be that strong. Therefore, he was determined to be the first one to stand out. After all, the situation was already very clear. Each of the 4 major cities would send a martial art practitioner to enter the arena for the first round of competition. The martial art practitioners who entered the arena were the strongest in their respective cities. This was also to prevent the strong from meeting each other too early. Swish. After 3 arenas were occupied, everyone's eyes shifted to Western City's side. There were a total of 5 arenas. The short-haired martial art practitioner from Oriental City, the white-clothed martial art practitioner from South City, and Li Shueba from North City. There were only 2 arenas left. Unless one thought that he was strong, he would only choose to enter the arena when there was someone from Western City defending the arena. Because entering the arena at this time would mean provoking Western City. Ning Yu had just killed Chen Feng, a rank 2 half-step Immortal King. It was obviously irrational to go against him at this time. Go! Over at Western City's side. Sun He looked left and right before his eyes finally stopped on Ning Yu. He said, "You represent Western City. You must finish the first battle quickly." This concerned the reputation of Western City. Sun He would not go against Ning Yu. If these defenders could not persist to the last round, they would not only lose their own people, but also the people of their respective cities. Therefore, the defenders in the first round were the strongest in their respective cities. As for the remaining 16 martial art practitioners, they would fight for the last spot to advance. I, Wang Lai from North City, challenge Liu Kan from South City. I, Wen Hu from South City, challenge Li Shueba from North City. I, Zhu Ziyi from West City, challenge Xie Yun from East City. It was only now that Ning Yu found out that the short-haired martial art practitioner was called Xie Yun. However, a name was just a code name. It did not matter whether he knew it or not. Swish. Chapter 2385. A silly smile logically. If the people of Western City challenged Xie Yun of Eastern City, then the warriors of Eastern City would definitely come out to challenge Ning Yu. However, Ning Yu's performance of killing Qian Feng was still fresh in everyone's mind. What was the difference between challenging Ning Yu now and courting death? TSK, the people of Eastern City are really cowards. Isn't that so? No one in such a big city dares to challenge Ning Yu. Don't worry, maybe Eastern City will be the first to be eliminated. Hee, let's bet and see if there will be anyone in Eastern City who can't withstand the pressure and come out to fight with Ning Yu. The discussions that reached their ears enraged the martial artists of Dongfang City. Among them, a warrior of about 20 years old took a step forward and said fiercely, I, Eastern City's Yang Hao, challenge Western City's Ning Yu. Swish. While they were talking, Yang Hao leaped up and jumped onto the stage where Ning Yu was. I admit that you are very powerful to be able to kill Qian Feng, but I am not weak either. After jumping onto the stage, Yang Hao said directly, Today, I will kill you in front of so many people and let you know what real strength is. You want to kill me? Ning Yu stared at Yang Hao and said, with your strength of half a step to Immortal King, you can't even touch me. Arrogant. Yang Hao was so angry that his nose was crooked. He had endured hardships for so many years, and this time, he came out to fight with Ning Yu in order to amaze the world with a brilliant feat and let everyone remember him. Ning Yu, on the other hand, he directly mocked him, which made him feel very insulted. Swish. With both feet on the ground, Yang Hao immediately rushed out. How many moves do you think Yang Hao will be defeated? In my opinion, 10 moves at most. 10 moves? Hee, you underestimate Ning Yu too much. To tell you the truth, based on my years of watching arena matches, Yang Hao will be defeated in 5 moves at most. 5 moves? That's impossible. No matter what, Yang Hao is a stage 1 half-step Immortal King. If Ning Yu, a peak stage half-step Immortal King wants to defeat him, it will probably take him 8 moves. Do you dare to make a bet with me? What are we betting on? If Ning Yu can defeat Yang Hao in 5 moves, then you will give me your intrinsic flying sword. If Ning Yu cannot defeat Yang Hao in 5 moves, then I will give you my intrinsic flying sword. Deal, just you wait. Before the last martial artist could finish his sentence, his mouth was slightly agape, and his face was filled with shock. This was because he realized that Ning Yu's fist had landed on Yang Hao's chest and sent him flying. Gulp. The sudden change caused the last cultivator to swallow a mouthful of saliva. Was he too stupid, or was the world too crazy? 1 move. Ning Yu only used 1 move to defeat Yang Hao. In fact, looking at Ning Yu's current state, it was estimated that he did not even use 10% of his strength and easily defeated Yang Hao. Give it to me. Another martial artist's words rang in the ears of the last martial artist. Here you go. Since he was willing to bet, he must be willing to lose. The last martial artist could only obediently throw his intrinsic flying sword to another martial artist. When he threw the intrinsic flying sword, the last martial artist's heart was bleeding. In order to get that intrinsic flying sword, he had wasted more than half of his savings. No way, I must win it back. Rolling his eyes, the last martial artist said in a deep voice, Mo Qiong, do you dare to make another bet with me? What bet? The martial artist called Mo Qiong raised his eyebrows and said, as long as you, Yang Yuming, dare, I will not back down. Okay, let's bet whether Ning Yu can win the final championship. Yang Yuming gritted his teeth and said, if Ning Yu can win the championship, then I will listen to your orders until I enter the Immortal Court. Otherwise, you will have to listen to me. Swish. Hearing this, Mo Qiong's expression changed slightly. His and Yang Yuming's identities were rather special. This time, they had left the Immortal Court together to see the world and also to watch the Broken Cliff Festival to see if they could find suitable geniuses to join their respective immortal kingdoms. Now, Yang Yuming suggested that the loser had to listen to the winner. It would be fine if they won, but if they lost, the consequences would be unimaginable. Why? You don't dare. He. I know you don't dare because you bet on Ningyu's victory. It was all a blind guess, just a bit of luck. Yang Yuming smiled faintly and tried to provoke him. Since he lost his intrinsic flying sword to Mo Qiong, Yang Yuming would definitely think of a way to get it back. Using Ningyu to bet was obviously the best choice. How can I not dare? Mo Qiong snorted and said, since we are betting, let's make it big. Whoever loses will not only have to listen to the other party's orders, but also have to give Ningyu 10,000 two-world stones. What the F***ck? Yang Yuming immediately cursed. 10,000 two-world stones? How could Mo Qiong say that? Although they were all from super immortal kingdoms, it was not easy to take out 10,000 two-world stones. Furthermore, they did not bring many things with them when they left the Immortal Court this time. If they wanted to gather 10,000 two-world stones, they would probably be penniless. Why, you don't dare. I know you don't dare because you know that Ningyu will win, so. Seeing Yang Yuming's actions, Mo Qiong smiled faintly. His tone was exactly the same as Yang Yuming's. All right, I'll bet with you. Yang Yuming said coldly in a fit of anger, I don't believe that Ningyu can clinch the final championship. Betting on him will be the stupidest decision you have made in your life. Not necessarily, Mo Qiong said calmly. Actually, Mo Qiong's choice to bet on Ningyu was not groundless. He had done his research beforehand. The strongest of the 5 martial artists from Broken Cliff City who participated in the Broken Cliff meeting was only a 3rd or 4th stage half-step immortal king. With the strength that Ningyu had displayed, he could easily win even against a 3rd stage half-step immortal king. As long as Ningyu had a trump card. No, as long as he gave Ningyu some trump cards, then Ningyu would definitely win. The more he thought about it, the more Mo Qiong felt that this was a good idea. By giving Ningyu a trump card and helping Ningyu obtain victory, not only would he be able to win the bet with Yang Yuming, he would also be able to rope in a peerless genius for his immortal empire. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, no matter how Mo Qiong thought about it, he felt that he had profited greatly. Mo Qiong could not help but look at Ningyu and laugh. Is there a problem with this person? Ningyu's perception was very strong. Mo Qiong's silly smile was completely seen by him. If Mo Qiong was a girl, it would be fine, but Mo Qiong was a guy. Think about it. After you won the battle, a young man would smile at you. Just thinking about it made his scalp go numb. Do you want to win the championship? Suddenly, a subtle voice transmission rang in Ningyu's ears. Without a doubt. The one who asked this question was Mo Qiong. What do you mean? Chapter 2386. Breaking ribs of course. Mo Qiong revealed a matter-of-fact expression. He was from a super immortal country. With his identity and status, helping Ningyu win the championship was a piece of cake. What do I need to do? Ningyu asked without batting an eyelid. There was no free lunch in this world. Ningyu was clear about this. Mo Qiong wouldn't help him for no reason, just like how Tai Muqiang wouldn't give him the 2-world stone for no reason. Since Mo Qiong was willing to help him win the championship, it meant that Mo Qiong wanted something from him. Let's not talk about this for now. After you enter the Immortal Court, someone will contact you. Mo Qiong waved his hand and said casually, I'll tell you a piece of news in advance. Among the 5 cultivators in Broken Cliff City, the strongest one is around the 4th stage half-step immortal king. Sorry, I can still win the championship without you. Ningyu said indifferently. Towards people like Mo Qiong, Ningyu's idea was to avoid contact as much as possible. Ningyu liked to ask for anything directly, just like Lin Lang. If he didn't even know what he needed to pay in the end, then what was the point of doing it? Are you sure? Mo Qiong wasn't angry at Ningyu's attitude and said, to tell you the truth, those people in Broken Cliff City also have trump cards. If they use them, their combined strength is even comparable to a 5th stage half-step Immortal King expert. What does that have to do with me? Ningyu said calmly. He had already made up his mind. Unless Mo Qiong revealed his true intentions, he wouldn't talk too much with Mo Qiong. Damn it. Seeing Ningyu's stubbornness, Mo Qiong cursed in his heart. However, in order to win the bet with Yang Yaming, Mo Qiong could only choose to endure and not clash with Ningyu for the time being. Taking a deep breath, Mo Qiong decided to wait and see. If Ningyu could win the championship, he wouldn't need to do anything to beat Yang Yaming. If Ningyu could not win the championship, he would help Ningyu at the critical moment. Whether Ningyu agreed or not, he would help. Rumble. While Mo Qiong was thinking of countermeasures, the battle on the other side had already reached its climax. The 5 martial artists who won the first round were South City's Liu Can, North City's Lu Yong, North City's top student Li, West City's Ningyu, and West City's Zhu Ziyi. Among them, the 2 martial artists from Oriental City, Xie Yun and Yang Hao, were both eliminated. Swish 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 swish. The first round of battles ended, and the second round of battles soon began. Compared to the first round, the 10 martial artists in the second round were obviously weaker. It was obvious. The battle between experts would end very quickly. On the other hand, it would take longer for the weaker ones to fight. In the first round, Ningyu and the others used less than 10 minutes to finish all the matches and select the 5 final victors. The second round took a full half an hour. However, the difference between the martial artists who won the second round and Ningyu and the others was especially large. In the third round of battles, they were all eliminated, with the exception of 5. At this point, after 3 rounds of selections, the 5 final victors were Liu Can, Lu Yong, top student Li, Ningyu, and Zhu Ziyi. Swoosh. Seeing the results, Xiao Duanya's figure flashed, and he flew to the sky above the plaza. Cough cough. First, he cleared his throat. Then, Xiao Duanya said in a clear voice, "I don't want to say any more nonsense. The rules of the next round might be changed. Originally, I was very confident in the martial artists chosen from the 4 major cities. But now, it seems that you have disappointed me greatly." As he spoke, Xiao Duanya's gaze swept across Ningyu and the others. Being stared at by Xiao Duanya, Liu Can, Lu Yong, top student Li, and Zhu Ziyi all lowered their heads, not daring to meet Xiao Duanya's eyes. However, Ningyu was fearless. He directly chose to meet Xiao Duanya's gaze. Ningyu's action caused Xiao Duanya to be slightly surprised. He raised his eyebrows and began to size up Ningyu with interest. After looking carefully for a while, Xiao Duanya withdrew his gaze and continued, "Broken Cliff City will send a martial artist to guard the arena. Next, the 5 of you will go up the arena and fight with him. The winner will enter the next round, and the loser will be directly eliminated." Whoosh. Just as Xiao Duanya finished speaking, a young woman dressed in purple jumped onto the arena. A woman? Liu Can's mouth opened, and he said, "I, Liu Can, do not hit women. Making me fight with her is obviously an insult to me." On the arena, the woman dressed in purple snorted coldly, and said in a deep voice, "You, Liu Can, are a level 1 half-step Celestial King. You have once fought and killed a level 2 half-step Celestial King demonic beast in the Celestial Court. Preliminary judgment, your overall strength is around 2.5 half-step Celestial King. Oh, you seem to know me quite well." The corner of Liu Can's mouth curled up. "Cut the crap. For trash like you, I will only need to use 30% of my strength at most, and I will be able to easily kill you," the woman dressed in purple said coldly. Whoosh. Liu Can's expression changed slightly. He represented the South City, not himself. Now that the woman dressed in purple embarrassed him in front of so many people, his expression became very ugly. Then let's see who's the real deal. Liu Can stomped his feet on the ground, and directly jumped onto the arena. "Southern City's Liu Can, please advise me." Liu Can cupped his fists, and said to the woman dressed in purple, "No problem." The violet-clothed young woman replied, and then her figure flashed as she charged directly towards Liu Can. Whoosh. The woman dressed in purple was very fast, so fast that she only used 0.1 seconds to reach Liu Can's side. Taking advantage of Liu Can's unpreparedness, the woman dressed in purple punched Liu Can's chest with a violent gust of wind. Bang! At this critical moment, Liu Can wanted to dodge, but it was obviously too late. The enormous force that came from his chest caused Liu Can's body to fly out, and he fell heavily on the ground. Fart! Dark red blood sprayed out from his mouth. Liu Can's face alternated between green and white. In short, it was very beautiful. As the only remaining seedling of Southern City, his defeat meant that Southern City's entire team was annihilated. One had to know. In the previous Broken Cliff Grand Meet, the South City had seized the first place. Who's the second? The woman dressed in purple did not care about the changes in Liu Can's expression. Her eyes swept past Ningyu, Lu Yong, and the others, revealing a provocative expression. Arrogant, Lu Yong shouted in a low voice, and then he leaped onto the arena. Northern City's Lu Yong, please advise me. You can't do it. Step down voluntarily, and I can let you keep your ribs intact. The woman dressed in purple shook her head slowly and said indifferently, compared to that trash, Liu Can, your strength is still slightly weaker. Kill. Being ridiculed by the woman dressed in purple, Lu Yong flew into a rage. He immediately charged out, raised his right leg, and kicked at the woman dressed in purple. Crack. The facts proved that. The woman dressed in purple didn't lie. She dodged Lu Yong to the side, and then her right hand clenched into a fist and punched out, and it just happened to hit Lu Yong's chest. Chapter 2387. Overconfident. Can't even withstand a single blow. The lady in purple glanced at Lu Yong casually and then shifted her gaze to the second martial artist from North City, Lee the straight-A student. Relatively speaking, Lee the straight-A student was much stronger than Lu Yong. Although they were both half-step immortal kings, anyone with a discerning eye could see that even two Lu Yongs would not be a match for straight-A student. At this time, the lady in purple noticed straight-A student. She stared at straight-A student and said lightly, "Your strength is not bad. You should be able to take 3 moves from me. I think I can take 5 moves from you." Lee the straight-A student leaped onto the arena. 5 moves? Haha, that depends on whether you have the ability or not. The lady in purple's face turned cold. Her figure flashed and she charged at straight-A student. Compared to when she was dealing with Liu Can and Lu Yong, the lady in purple's expression was obviously more serious. She said that she could defeat straight-A student in 3 moves, but in reality, she might not even be able to defeat him in 10 moves. Rumble. In an instant, the lady in purple and straight-A student were engaged in a fierce battle. Judging from the process of the battle, no one had the upper hand. If the battle continued like this, it would probably take 3 hours for the battle to end. I thought you were strong. It turns out that you're just a wax head with a silver spear. After the 3 moves, the lady in purple curled her lips, then clenched her right fist and punched straight at straight-A student's head. Simple and violent. The lady in purple didn't want to waste too much time on straight-A student. As a person from Broken Cliff City, she had high standards for herself. 1 against 5. She wanted to successfully defend the arena alone and eliminate the martial artists selected from the 4 major cities. However, the ideal was plentiful, but the reality was harsh. Before the lady in purple's fist hit straight-A student's head, he disappeared into the void. The next moment, Brainiac Lee appeared behind the purple-clothed lady and punched her back. Bang! Lee the straight-A student didn't use his full strength in this punch. The punch with 80% of his strength blasted the lady out of the arena. Below the arena, the lady in purple was livid with anger. She could have used her powerful immortal chi to tangle with straight-A student. Unexpectedly, while she was unprepared, Scholar Lee suddenly entered the void and appeared behind her. Unfortunately, she couldn't complete a string of 5, and could only string 2. Thank you for letting me win. Lee cupped his fists at the purple-clothed woman below the stage and said, "It was purely a coincidence that I could defeat you. If we really had a life-and-death battle, I might not be able to defeat you. Humph. It's good that you know." The purple-robed woman snorted coldly and left the plaza. Whoosh! As soon as the purple-robed woman left, the second martialist from Broken Cliff City jumped into the arena. Broken Cliff City, Lu Bin. The cultivator from Broken Cliff City looked at Li Shueba coldly and said, "I only need one move to defeat you." As soon as the word summon was uttered, Lu Bin's figure moved before Li Ba could react. In an instant, he appeared beside Li Ba. There was nothing fancy about it. Lu Bin lifted his right leg and kicked Blood Tyrant hard. For some unknown reason, LV Bin was especially meticulous in dealing with Li the top student. Not to mention a first stage half-step to Celestial King, even a real second stage or third stage half-step to Celestial King would be defeated by this kick of his. Crack. Li Shueba's strength was not particularly strong. Naturally, he would not gain any advantage from Lu Bin's kick. Accompanied by a cracking sound. Several of Li Shueba's ribs were directly broken. Hiss. Sun Hadao gasped when he saw Li Shueba's miserable state in the arena. When you meet Lu Bin later, you'd better surrender obediently. Sun He looked at Ju Ziyi next to him and reminded him. Why? Ju Ziyi was puzzled. Rolling his eyes, Sun He said, Lu Bin is pursuing that purple-robed woman just now. I can't believe it. Ju Ziyi swore on the spot. With this relationship, it was already a blessing that Li Shueba only had a few of his ribs broken. Both of you, come at me together. I'm in a hurry. Ju Ziyi was thinking about how to admit defeat when he heard Lu Bin's urging voice in his ear. After that, Lu Bin also shifted his gaze to the outside of Broken Cliff City, where the purple-robed woman had left. I admit defeat. Ju Ziyi was not that kind of stupid person. Even someone as strong as Li Shueba had been easily defeated. What was the difference between him going up and courting death? Therefore, before he got on the arena, he directly admitted defeat, lest his ribs were broken later. What about you? Seeing Ju Ziyi admit defeat, Lu Bin shifted his gaze to Ningyu and said impatiently, if you don't admit defeat, hurry up and come up here. If you admit defeat, don't waste time. Why should I admit defeat? Ningyu looked at Lu Bin with interest and said, if you were a 5th stage half-step Immortal King, maybe I would consider it, but you are only a 1st stage half-step Immortal King, and your cultivation is only a little higher than mine. I don't need to use my full strength to deal with you. Arrogant. Lu Bin flew into a rage. His eyes were about to split open, and he said angrily, come up here and see if I won't beat you until you look for your teeth on the ground. So what if I come up? What's the big deal? Ningyu twitched his mouth, then leaped up and jumped into the arena. Swish. As soon as Ningyu got into the arena, Lu Bin immediately rushed out, clenched his right hand into a fist, and punched towards Ningyu's head. What Ningyu said just now had obviously angered Lu Bin. In order to make Ningyu suffer a little, Lu Bin did not hold back at all in this punch. He did not hesitate to use his trump card to strengthen the power of this punch. A 3rd stage half-step Immortal King level attack. Looking at Lu Bin, who was constantly approaching him, Ningyu's expression was slightly solemn. His current strength was around a 3rd stage half-step Immortal King. With the Immortal King armor, he could defeat a 3rd stage half-step Immortal King. To put it simply, he could defeat Lu Bin, but he needed to use the Immortal King armor. Forget it, the Immortal King armor is not a trump card anyway. He did not think too much. Ningyu took a step forward, and decided to rely on the Immortal King armor to take Lu Bin's punch head-on. You overestimate yourself. Ningyu's action obviously made Lu Bin very angry. He shouted in a low voice, I will let you know what real power is. Bang! In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. Lu Bin's fist blasted on Ningyu's chest. That kind of expected thing did not happen. On the contrary, Ningyu even smiled at him. Not good. Lu Bin was indeed a peerless genius. He quickly reacted and hurriedly chose to retreat. But it was obviously too late for Lu Bin to think of retreating at this time. He had just taken a few steps back, and Ningyu's fist had flooded onto his chest. The huge force directly sent Lu Bin flying out, and he fell heavily to the ground. Poochie. Blood spurted out of his mouth. Lu Bin's face became extremely ugly, and it was burning. Shameful. So shameful. Before Ning Yu went up to the stage, he mocked him in every way possible. In the end, he could not even take one move. Swish. The remaining 3 martial artists in Broken Cliff City also changed their expressions slightly. Chapter 2388. Swallowing twice interesting. The city lord of Broken Cliff City, Xiao Duanya, was slightly surprised to see Ning Yu defeat Lu Bin so easily. At this moment, he knew that he had underestimated Ning Yu. Although Lu Bin's strength was not the top among the 5 martial artists in Broken Cliff City, the power of the move that Lu Bin displayed just now was not weak. Ning Yu could defeat Lu Bin easily, which was enough to show that he was extremely powerful. Swoosh. Just as Lu Bin was defeated, a lady in her 20s jumped onto the arena from Broken Cliff City. Zhong Wen, please advise me. As Lu Bin was defeated by Ning Yu, Zhong Wen did not show any arrogant actions. Instead, she cupped her fists and said to Ning Yu, I don't dare to advise you. Ning Yu said faintly, it's just learning from each other. Although Ning Yu's expression was calm, he was actually extremely shocked. Zhong Wen's cultivation was the same as Lu Bin, a grade 1 half-step immortal king. However, the pressure that Zhong Wen gave him was even stronger. In other words, 2 Lu Bins might not be a match for 1 Zhong Wen. His eyes swept across the remaining 2 martial artists from Broken Cliff City. Ning Yu's face became extremely solemn. Zhong Wen was not the strongest martial artist in Broken Cliff City. At least, the remaining 2 martial artists were more terrifying than Zhong Wen. Take this. As Ning Yu was thinking, Zhong Wen stepped on the ground and rushed out. Swoosh. Zhong Wen's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, she came in front of Ning Yu. A fist that contained terrifying energy blasted out and blasted straight at Ning Yu's chest. What was different from Lu Bin was that Lu Bin used all his strength, but Zhong Wen only used 50% of her strength in this punch. It seemed that Zhong Wen was testing Ning Yu. Bang! Since Zhong Wen chose to test him, Ning Yu also chose to cooperate with her. Anyway, his real target was the remaining 2 people, not Zhong Wen. If he exposed too many of his trump cards during the fierce battle with Zhong Wen, it would obviously be a bit irrational. The 2 fists collided. Ning Yu and Zhong Wen were sent flying backward. Judging from the distance they flew back, Ning Yu and Zhong Wen were evenly matched. Because they had all retreated to the edge of the arena. He could tell. If anyone used even a little more strength, the other party would fall off the stage. You have such a good grasp of strength. Zhong Wen was shocked. She knew that Ning Yu had not used his full strength. Originally, she was prepared to increase her strength to prevent Ning Yu from blasting her off the stage. Who would have thought? Ning Yu's control of strength was just right. He only pushed her back to the edge of the ring and didn't blast her off the ring. I'm no match for him. Just through this move, Zhong Wen concluded that she was no match for Ning Yu. Humph. Even if I'm not as good as you, I will force you to use your full strength. Zhong Wen snorted and immediately gathered all the energy in her body into her fist. Then, she threw a backhand punch. Compared to the previous punch, the power of Zhong Wen's punch had reached 100%. A punch with 100% strength was extremely powerful. Kai kai kai. Even the void began to tremble. Do you need my help? At the critical moment, Mo Qiong's voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. Hearing Mo Qiong's words, Ning Yu turned his head and shook his head slightly. Humph. Arrogant. Seeing that Ning Yu didn't know how to appreciate favors, Mo Qiong snorted coldly. I want to see what makes you so arrogant. Although Mo Qiong said so, his wrist moved quietly, wanting to help Ning Yu at the critical moment. After all, the bet between him and Yang Yuming was 10,000 two-world stones and the control of the other party. Therefore, Ning Yu had to win the final championship. Otherwise, he would lose a lot of money. Bang! At this moment, Ning Yu's fist collided with Zhong Wen's. The second collision didn't have that kind of earth-shattering event. This time, Ning Yu and Zhong Wen both stood in the same place without moving. Time. It was as if time had stopped. What happened? Who won? You're asking me? Who should I ask? In my opinion, Zhong Wen should have won. After all, she is from Broken Cliff City and is extremely powerful. Are you saying that Ningyu is not powerful? Even someone as strong as Lu Bin was defeated by him in one move. Why are we fighting here? Let's wait and see. Anyway, they will continue to fight. Below the arena, everyone was discussing. From this move alone, Ningyu and Zhong Wen seemed to be somewhat evenly matched. However, some powerful people should be able to see which side won. I lost. Not long after. On the arena, Zhong Wen took a step back and said with a face full of unwillingness, "You are very powerful, but if you only have this little strength, then the final championship will definitely not be with you." Thank you for reminding me. Ningyu cupped his fists at Zhong Wen to express his gratitude. Actually, even without Zhong Wen's reminder, Ningyu also knew that it would be very difficult to win the final championship. Although his strength was not weak, the remaining two people from Broken Cliff City were the real terror. Even from one of them, Ningyu felt the pressure from Lu Zhanfei and Wu Xiong. And Lu Zhanfei and Wu Xiong were level 5 and 4 half-step Immortal King. In other words, at least one of the remaining two martial artists from Broken Cliff City was comparable to a level 5 half-step Immortal King. Enter the top 3, the reward is a leveling pill. Zhong Wen had just jumped off the arena when Xiao Duanya flicked his wrist and threw an elixir to Ningyu. Pa! Ningyu's face lit up and he quickly reached out to catch it. Giving him a leveling pill at this time was really like sending charcoal in the snow. Generally speaking, according to the different strength of a martial artist's body, one could take at most 3 leveling pills. However, only those whose body was extremely strong, reaching the strength of an immortal king, could take 3 leveling pills. Otherwise, 2 was already the limit. Any more would probably cause one's body to explode. Crack. After taking the leveling pill, Ningyu examined it for a while, then threw it into his mouth and began to refine it. Boom. Boom. However, just as Ningyu began to refine the leveling pill, 2 martial artists from Broken Cliff City in the distance emitted a terrifying aura. Second-level half-step Immortal King, Xiao Duanya tacitly allowed Ningyu to obtain the leveling pill, and they could improve their cultivation. Therefore, Ningyu took the leveling pill to break through to the first-level half-step Immortal King, while they could easily advance to the second-level half-step Immortal King. Forget it, refine it for me. Ningyu shook his head and got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind. He operated the technique to the extreme and tried his best to refine the leveling pill. Compared to the first time, refining the leveling pill for the second time was much more difficult. Bear with it. The pain coming from all the bones in his body caused Ningyu's expression to become a little distorted. What's going on? Xiao Duanya stared at Ningyu, feeling a little puzzled. Logically, taking the leveling pill for the first time would not make such a painful expression. Chapter 2389. A Madman. The more he thought about it, the more Xiao Duanya felt that it was possible. After all, it was his first time consuming a leveling pill, and it was extremely secretive. Even a celestial king would have a hard time discovering it. From Ningyu's current expression, he could almost conclude that Ningyu had definitely consumed a leveling pill before, and it was the kind that had been consumed not too long ago, at most a few hours ago. Because it was only at this time that it would be so difficult for him to consume a second leveling pill. Boom. Ningyu did not know what Xiao Duanya was thinking. To him, it was most important to raise his cultivation to a first-grade half-step celestial king as soon as possible. Xiao Duanya had rewarded him with a leveling pill for entering the top 3 of the cliff gathering. It was conceivable that once he became the champion, he would receive a lot of rewards. It was even possible that he could directly raise his cultivation to the 5th-grade half-step celestial king realm. Of course, Ningyu would not think about these things for the time being. He circulated his techniques and began to do his best to seek a breakthrough. Kai. As time passed, the aura on Ningyu's body began to slowly strengthen. All the martial artists in the cliff square turned their gazes to Ningyu. Leveling pill. The pill that Ningyu had consumed was the leveling pill that they dreamed of. Envy, jealousy, vexation, all kinds of emotions appeared on their faces. The leveling pill was priceless. Unless there was a celestial king in the family, It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to obtain a leveling pill. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 minutes had passed. Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying aura emanated from Ningyu's body. This aura only emanated for an instant before it was retracted into Ningyu's body. First grade half-step Celestial King? Although Ningyu hid very quickly, he was still discovered by the crowd. However, the aura that Ningyu emanated was only equivalent to a first-grade half-step Celestial King. This made the crowd very puzzled. Swoosh. Just as the crowd was puzzled, a young man from the Cliff Square leaped onto the arena. Broken Cliff City, Lei Ming, please guide me. As soon as Ningyu advanced to the first stage of half-step Immortal King Realm, a warrior of Broken Cliff City jumped onto the arena and cupped his fists towards Ningyu. If Ningyu was still a peak stage half-step Immortal King, Lei Ming might not take it to heart. After all, he was a second stage half-step Immortal King, so dealing with Ningyu, who was at the peak of the half-step Immortal King realm, didn't require too much effort at all. However, Ningyu had advanced to the first stage of the half-step Celestial King realm. For geniuses, every increase in level was a qualitative breakthrough. Even though Ningyu had only advanced from the peak of the half-step Immortal King realm to the first level of the half-step Immortal King realm, Lei Ming was sure that Ningyu's strength had increased by at least a few times. Therefore, Lei Ming did not dare to be careless when fighting against Ningyu. You are very strong. Ningyu looked at Lei Ming and said in a deep voice, I should have gained something from fighting with you. Take this. Lei Ming did not choose to waste his breath. He immediately rushed out and punched at Ningyu's head. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As he moved forward, Lei Ming's fist light split into 3 and attacked Ningyu's head from 3 different directions. The one in the middle is real. With a thought, Ningyu was able to instantly determine that the fist in the middle was the real one. As for the other 2, they were from the Shu clan. As such, they were not very powerful. After determining that the fist light in the middle was real, Ningyu gathered all the energy in his body on his fist and charged at the fist light in the middle. Bang! Bang! However, the speed of the fist light on both sides was clearly much faster. Before Ningyu could come into contact with the fist light in the middle, he was hit by the fist light on both sides. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Ningyu slightly dodged to the side to avoid being hit in the head. Otherwise, even if the fist light was very weak, it would be enough to injure him. Bang! Enduring the pain of being hit by the 2 fist lights, Ningyu's fist collided with the fist light in the middle. Gasp! This punch! Ningyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Lei Ming was indeed a super expert of Broken Cliff City. His cultivation base was second stage half-step Celestial King. His actual combat strength was at least 4th stage half-step Celestial King. Ningyu initially thought that after advancing to first stage half-step Celestial King, he could easily win the championship. Now, it seemed that he might have thought too much. When Ningyu was at the peak of half-step Celestial King, without using the Black Pearl and Golden Token, his overall strength was around 3.5 stage half-step Celestial King. Now that he had advanced to first stage half-step Celestial King, his strength had improved a lot. Even if he encountered a 4th stage half-step Celestial King, he could easily kill him. If he encountered a 5th stage half-step Celestial King, he could also put up a fight. You dare to be distracted while fighting me? That's not very good. Just as Ningyu was in a daze, Lei Ming's words suddenly rang in his ears. Then, Lei Ming shouted and said in a deep voice, Scorpion King Fist. Rumble. As Lei Ming shouted, a loud voice rang out. A fist light in the shape of a scorpion descended from the sky and attacked Ningyu fiercely. Celestial King level combat skill. In the distance. Everyone was shocked when they saw Lei Ming use the Scorpion King Fist. Combat skills were divided into Lord of Heaven level, Celestial King level, Quasi-Emperor level, and Great Emperor level. The Scorpion King Fist that Lei Ming used was an Celestial King level combat skill. Although it was only at the early stage Celestial King level, its power was extremely terrifying. 4th stage half-step Celestial King level. In other words, the power of Lei Ming's fist light had reached 4.5 stage half-step Celestial King level. Celestial King Armor. Ningyu was not a fool. He hurriedly activated the Celestial King Armor on his body to block the attack of the Scorpion King Fist. Crack, crack, crack. However, Ningyu had obviously underestimated the power of the Scorpion King Fist. The Scorpion King Fist was a Celestial King-level combat skill. After being hit by it, the Celestial King armor on Ningyu's body immediately shattered. Puff! The Celestial King armor shattered. Ningyu was sent flying by the huge force. Fortunately, Ningyu stabilized his body at the critical moment. Otherwise, this attack alone would be enough to blast him out of the arena. Lei Yiming was slightly surprised to see that Ningyu was not blasted out of the arena. In order to use the Scorpion King Fist, he used 100% of his strength and went all out. To put it simply, if this move could not defeat Ningyu, he would have no choice but to leave the arena. After stabilizing his body, Ningyu looked at Lei Yiming and said in a low voice, "You are very, I admit defeat." However, before Ningyu could finish his words, Lei Yiming raised his hand and said, "I hope you can win against the madman." While speaking, Lei Yiming leaped out of the arena. What's going on? Lei Yiming's action made Ningyu a little confused. He only blocked one attack from Lei Yiming. Why did Lei Yiming take the initiative to admit defeat? Swish. At this time. Chapter 2390. Chapter 2390. Chapter 2390. Changing the betting. You didn't say anything. Instead, he stood on the stage and started to size up this martial artist who was called Madman. He wasn't too tall and was about 2 years older than him. He wore a grey robe and had a delicate and handsome appearance. Just from the external characteristics of this martial artist, Ningyu couldn't imagine why he was called Madman. Bad taste? Ningyu frowned slightly. To be called Madman, he must be weird in some aspects. He might be crazy, arrogant, or have some special hobbies. Obviously, Ningyu thought that the reason why this martial artist was called Madman was because he had some special hobbies. If Madman knew what Ningyu was thinking at this moment, he would probably go crazy. He was called a madman, not because he had any special hobbies, but because he did not show any mercy when fighting, and every move he made was ruthless. Who cares? Let's rest for 10 minutes first. Ningyu didn't think too much about the origin of the title Madman. He took out an elixir and threw it into his mouth and started to rest. Although the battle with Lei Yiming didn't consume much energy, Ningyu definitely wouldn't waste time if he had time to rest. After all, Madman wasn't simple since Lei Yiming respected him so much. Tick. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes had passed. Swish. Madman's sense of time was very strong. 10 minutes had just passed and he immediately jumped up and rushed out at a terrifying speed. Madman was originally 4 to 5 meters away from Ningyu, but in an instant, he appeared in front of Ningyu. Bang! Ningyu didn't dare to be careless and quickly punched out with his right fist. 2 fists collided. Ningyu and Madman took a few steps back at the same time. This move. Ningyu and Madman were evenly matched and no one had an advantage. Let's not waste time. The madman took a deep breath and stared fixedly at Ningyu. He said in a low voice, "Let's decide the victor in one move." One move to decide the victor. Ningyu raised his brows and looked at Madman with interest. Generally speaking, 80% of those who wanted to use one move to decide the outcome of the battle had some kind of ultimate move that could burst forth with a powerful attack. Could it be that he has some trump card? Thinking of this, Ningyu's expression became a little solemn. To be able to be the last martial artist of Broken Cliff City, it was enough to show how terrifying Madman was. What, you don't want to? Seeing the change in Ningyu's expression, the madman took a step forward and said coldly, "I knew it would be like this. Fine, I won't force you. Take this." As soon as he finished speaking, the madman stomped on the ground and dashed forward. On the surface, Madman seemed to be moving very slowly. In fact, that was not the case. Almost in an instant, the madman arrived in front of Ningyu. His fist carried a violent gale of energy as it ruthlessly smashed towards Ningyu's head. F***ck. Ningyu couldn't help but curse at the madman's unconventional moves. Without much time to think, Ningyu immediately gathered the energy in his body into his fist and made an intimate contact with the madman's fist. Bang! With this crisp sound, Ningyu and the madman immediately took a few steps back until they reached the edge of the arena. Only then did they stabilize themselves. Evenly matched. Once again, Ningyu and the madman were evenly matched. Ningyu is actually so strong. Exactly. The madman is known as one of the top 5 peerless experts in Broken Cliff City. Although his cultivation base is only at the 2nd stage half-step Immortal King realm, he can even kill a real 5th stage half-step Immortal King. In my opinion, Ningyu should be a trump card cultivated by the Western Venerable. That's possible. After all, Western City was ranked last in the previous Broken Cliff meet. If they're ranked last again this time, the Western Venerable One will probably be scolded to death by the Broken Cliff Venerable One. The cultivators of Broken Cliff City were in a heated discussion. The cultivators of the other 4 major cities were also shocked and in disbelief. They originally thought that Ningyu being able to enter the top 3 was already a blessing from his previous life. Who would have thought that Ningyu would force Lei Ming to admit defeat with a single move? Now, he was even with the madman. Perhaps Ningyu could really win the championship in the end. Yang Yuming, prepare 10,002 realm stones. When Ningyu defeats the madman, you have to fulfill your promise immediately. The most excited person wasn't the people of Western City, but Mo Qiong from the Super Celestial Nation. After all, Mo Qiong had made a bet with Yang Yuming. As long as Ningyu won the championship, Yang Yuming would listen to his orders. He would also give 10,002 realm stones to Ningyu. That being said, Mo Qiong wasn't interested in the 10,002 realm stones. He was more interested in controlling Yang Yuming. After all, Yang Yuming came from the Super Celestial Nation too. Most importantly, Yang Yuming had a lot of resources in his hands. These resources were very useful to him. Humph, the battle between Ningyu and the madman hasn't ended yet. Isn't it too early for you to tell me this? Yang Yuming wasn't a pushover either. He harumphed coldly and said in a deep voice, to tell you the truth, the madman has made a name for himself in Broken Cliff City. His strength isn't limited to this. It was as if he was trying to prove Yang Yuming's words. Bang! On the ring. A terrifying aura soared into the sky. Bang! 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 3 dull thuds took place in a row. Whoosh! Upon hearing the 3 dull thuds, all the martial artists on the Broken Cliff Square widened their eyes. Their faces were filled with disbelief. 5th stage half-step Celestial King realm, the madman had a breakthrough in the middle of the battle, and he had directly broken through to the 5th stage half-step Celestial King realm. This, in the square. Mo Qiong's face turned extremely ugly when he sensed the terrifying aura emitting from the madman. Just now, he was very optimistic that Ningyu would win. But now, he could basically conclude that Ningyu would definitely lose, because Ningyu was only a 1st stage half-step Celestial King realm. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't possibly be a match for the madman who was a 5th stage half-step Celestial King realm. If Ningyu had a trump card, the madman definitely had one too. Yang Yuming, how about we discuss something? Mo Qiong moved closer to Yang Yuming and said, the bet between us is cancelled. In addition, I'll compensate you with 10,002 realm stones. Swoosh. While they were talking, Mo Qiong took out a spatial ring from his pocket. He shook it and said, there are 10,002 realm stones in here. As long as you agree, I'll give it to you immediately. 10,002 realm stones? The corner of Yang Yuming's mouth curled up. Too little. Seeing Yang Yuming's expression, Mo Qiong clenched his teeth and took out another spatial ring. He said, 20,002 realm stones. As long as you agree to cancel the bet, I'll give you 20,002 realm stones. From now on, I'll turn around and leave when I see you. I won't be a hindrance to you. Chapter 2391. Chapter 2391. Chapter 2391 Discuss him? Hearing Yang Yuming's words, Mo Qiong was shocked. He really couldn't understand. Why would Yang Yumming make such a stupid request? One had to know. Ever since the madman advanced to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King, no matter how he looked at it, Ningyu was bound to lose and had no chance of winning. However, Mo Qiong kept an eye out. There must be something fishy about this. Since Yang Yumming dared to bet on Ningyu, it meant that Ningyu's strength was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. You only have 3 seconds to consider. Yang Yumming stretched out 3 fingers and said indifferently, 1, 2, I choose to exchange. Before Yang Yumming said 3, Mo Qiong said in a deep voice, I don't believe that Ningyu can win the final championship. Oh, right. Yang Yumming patted his head and said, there is a condition for us to exchange. You have to give me 20,000 two realm stones. That's impossible. Mo Qiong refused almost without thinking. What a joke. Even if he chose to exchange, it was not 100% certain that he would win. If he failed, wouldn't he have to pay an additional 20,000 two realm stones? Forget it if you are unwilling. Let's go according to the previous bet. If Ningyu wins the championship, I will listen to your orders. If Yang Yumming shrugged, indicating that he didn't care. You. Mo Qiong was so angry that his nose was crooked. Yang Yumming was determined to get the better of him and force him to take out 20,000 two realm stones. Taking a deep breath, Mo Qiong forced himself to calm down. After thinking for a while, Mo Qiong said, okay, I am willing to give you 20,000 two realm stones, but if you lose, you have to return it to me. Of course. Yang Yumming said indifferently. Swish. After getting Yang Yumming's confirmation, Mo Qiong flicked his wrist and threw out the spatial ring. Pa. Yang Yumming reacted quickly and caught the 2 interspatial rings firmly. Admit defeat. At the same time, on the arena, Madman looked coldly at Ningyu and said in a deep voice, you who is only at the 1st level of the half-step Immortal King realm isn't a match for me at all. If we don't fight, who will know? Ningyu's expression was solemn as he said, breaking through at the last moment might look impressive, but it's not. If I'm not wrong, the aura in your body hasn't completely stabilized yet. At this time, your overall combat strength isn't at its peak. I might be able to defeat you. Arrogant. The madman was furious. His purpose of advancing to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King realm was to scare Ningyu out of his wits and make Ningyu admit defeat. Now, it seemed that this plan had obviously fallen through. In fact, Ningyu was right. He had broken through several levels in a row and urgently needed time to stabilize his cultivation instead of continuing to fight. Under such circumstances, he could not display his peak combat strength. Take my fist, Raging Dragon goes to sea, Madman bellowed and rushed towards Ningyu at full speed. Another Immortal King level combat skill? Ningyu's expression was slightly solemn. It was the same as Lei Yiming's Scorpion King fist. Madman's Raging Dragon goes to sea was also an Immortal King level combat skill. However, compared to the Scorpion King fist, the power of Raging Dragon goes to sea was obviously much stronger. Black bead. Looking at the madman who was constantly rushing towards him, Ningyu injected the energy in his body into the black bead and immediately chose to detonate it. Madman was a 5th stage half-step Immortal King. Combined with Raging Dragon goes to sea, the power of this move was enough to kill an ordinary 5th stage half-step Immortal King. Ningyu did not want to use his physical strength to test the power of Raging Dragon goes to sea. The black bead was the trump card that Venerable Dongfang gave to Qian Bo. At that time, Qian Bo did not have time to use it, and it eventually fell into the hands of Ningyu. Now, Ningyu did not care so much. Without using the black bead, he had to face the Raging Dragon goes to sea. Therefore, Ningyu had no other choice. Rumble. After injecting enough energy, Ningyu flicked his wrist and directly threw the black bead at Madman. The black bead had just flown halfway when it suddenly exploded. The terrifying shockwave rushed towards the madman at an extremely terrifying speed. Ka. It was a critical moment. Madman clenched his fists and punched continuously. These shockwaves dissipated when they came into contact with Madman's fists. Although the black bead had lost its power, it successfully blocked Madman's fatal blow. Humph. I want to see whether you have more trump cards or my fists are harder. Madman snorted coldly and immediately rushed out again. F***CK the crystal. Seeing Madman rush out for the second time, Ningyu could not help but curse. Ordinary martial artists could basically only use one move of Immortal King-level combat skills. Even Lei Ming was forced to admit defeat after executing a single move. Madman was good. After using Raging Dragon Goes to Sea, he actually had the energy to use a second move. It had to be said. The difference in strength between Madman and Lei Ming was very, very big. To put it simply, even 5 Lei Ming would definitely not be a match for Madman. Golden token. Looking at Madman who was rushing towards him for the second time, Ningyu quietly hid the golden token in his cuff and quickly injected the energy in his body into it. In an instant, Ningyu's fist collided with Madman's fist. Catcher. The moment the two fists collided, the golden token shattered and a terrifying shockwave blasted towards the Madman's chest. Swish. At the critical moment, Madman hurriedly dodged to the side and barely dodged this fatal attack. Damn it. Madman's face became extremely cold and he cursed in his heart after failing to defeat Ningyu with his second move. The reason why Madman was so calm was because he felt that 2 Raging Dragon Goes to Sea would definitely be able to defeat Ningyu. Who would have thought? After 2 moves, Ningyu was still full of energy. As for him, he had already begun to go downhill. Fight. Thinking of the reward that Xiao Duanya had mentioned this morning, Madman gritted his teeth and charged out again, executing Raging Dragon Goes to Sea for the 3rd time. Catcher. In order to execute Raging Dragon Goes to Sea for the 3rd time, all the bones in Madman's body made cracking sounds. So ruthless. Ningyu's face was filled with disbelief. If Madman did this, regardless of whether he could defeat himself, the final result would be tragic. Stop. In mid-air, Xiao Duanya saw that Madman was about to execute Raging Dragon Goes to Sea for the 3rd time and immediately berated him. Swish. Not only did Xiao Duanya berate him, he even instantly appeared in front of Madman and slapped him on the cheek. Pa. The force that came from Madman's face caused him to spin rapidly, and he directly spun to the edge of the stage. Do you want to die? Xiao Duanya stared at Madman with a cold expression and said in a deep voice, Raging Dragon Goes to Sea is a battle technique of the intermediate stage of Celestial King. With the strength of your body now, you can only execute it twice at most. The 3rd time, you might die on the spot. City Lord. Being stopped by Xiao Duanya, Madman's face was filled with bitterness. I know what you are thinking. Chapter 2392. Chapter 2392. Chapter 2392 Broken Cliff Pool tied for first place? Ningyu was slightly taken aback. To be honest, Xiao Duanya's interference was not within his expectations. After all, the Madman was extremely powerful. He might really be able to perform Furious Dragon Goes to Sea for the 3rd time, and once the Madman performed Furious Dragon Goes to Sea, it was still unknown whether he could withstand it. Don't worry, I will give you all the rewards that the champion deserves. Seeing that Ningyu was a little hesitant, Xiao Duanya continued, furthermore, I will also reward you with a few promotion pills. As he spoke, Xiao Duanya flicked his wrist and took out a transparent jade bottle. There were a total of 3 pills in the jade bottle. Promotion pills. That's right, the jade bottle was filled with promotion pills. I have no objections. Ningyu would not argue with Xiao Duanya. Anyway, the final championship did not mean much to him. As long as there were rewards, everything was negotiable. Whoosh. Xiao Duanya was not a man of his word. He exerted some force in his palm and directly threw the jade bottle towards Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu reacted quickly and caught the jade bottle firmly. Next, I announce that the champions of this year's Broken Cliff meet are Ningyu and the Madman. Xiao Duanya flew into the air and announced in a clear voice. The corner of Ningyu's mouth twitched slightly. He originally thought that he would know the Madman's real name by now. Who would have thought that even Xiao Duanya would call him the Madman? Ningyu, Madman, follow me. As Ningyu was thinking, Xiao Duanya's voice sounded in his ear. Whoosh, whoosh. Before he could think of anything, Ningyu felt his body lighten. Then, he flew out with the madman and headed for the Broken Cliff City's City Lord's residence. TSK, who would have thought that there would be two champions this time? Yeah, who would have thought that Ningyu could also become the champion? In my opinion, the madman should be the champion. Who can resist his raging dragon goes to sea? You can't say that. Although the mad scientist is strong, Ningyu isn't weak either. Ningyu could vaguely hear the discussions of the people in the square. However, these discussions gradually faded into the distance and soon disappeared. Creak. Not long later, the sound of a door being pushed open rang out. Immediately after, Xiao Duanya continued, "This is the Cliff Pool. For the next 7 days, the two of you will have to cultivate in there. Strive to complete the transformation of your entire body and double your strength." Bang! After finishing this sentence, Xiao Duanya did not care about the reactions of Ningyu and Lunatic. Then, he slammed the door shut. Ningyu and the madman looked at each other, and they could see the shock in each other's eyes. It was still fine if he was a lunatic. After all, he knew Xiao Duanya's style of doing things. Very quickly, he calmed down and jumped into the cliff pool. Splash! When Ningyu saw the madman jump into the cliff pool, he was completely dumbfounded. He could feel the terrifying energy waves emitted from the pool in front of him. Cultivating in there for a day was equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for a year. However, Ningyu felt that it was a little unbelievable. Because he had heard the Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang mention it before. The cliff pool was the most important place in the Cliff City. In the past, even those who had made great contributions to the Cliff City would find it difficult to enter the cliff pool to cultivate. It was said that the champion of the cliff meet could stay in there for 3 days. But now, Xiao Duanya said that he and the madman could stay in there for 7 days. Going back and forth was equivalent to an additional 11 days of cultivation time. How could Ningyu not be shocked? Splash! However, while he was shocked, Ningyu did not waste any time. With a leap, he also jumped into the cliff pond. Kai. As soon as he entered the cliff pool, there was a terrifying energy that drilled into Ningyu's body through his skin. Ningyu did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly used his technique and started to devour the energy. Splash! Relatively speaking, the speed at which Ningyu devoured the energy was obviously much faster than the madman's. The madman devoured 1 portion, while Ningyu had to devour 2 portions, or even 3 portions. F***ck the crystals. At the side, the madman could not help but be dumbfounded when he saw the endless energy surging into Ningyu's body. In the Cliff City, the speed at which he devoured energy could be ranked in the top 5. Other than a few Immortal King-level powerhouses, he was the most terrifying. However, that was before he met Ningyu. Compared to Ningyu, he was obviously insignificant. Based on this devouring speed, it would not take long before Ningyu could easily advance to a 2nd stage half-step Immortal King. One had to know. Ningyu still had 3 ascension pills in his hand. When Ningyu advanced to a 2nd stage half-step Immortal King, wouldn't he be able to advance to a 3rd stage half-step Immortal King very quickly by swallowing the ascension pills? Gulp. Thinking of this, the madman could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He was proud that his cultivation had risen fast enough. It only took him about a year to advance from a 1st stage half-step Immortal King to a 5th stage half-step Immortal King. Of course. On the arena, he instantly rose to a 5th stage half-step Immortal King because of the seal left in his body. In fact, his real cultivation had already advanced to a 5th stage half-step Immortal King long before he participated in the Cliff Grand Meeting. The speed at which Ningyu's cultivation rose had already exceeded his understanding. He could almost predict it. After 7 days, Ningyu had a high possibility of advancing to a 5th stage half-step Immortal King, the same as him. Kai. Ningyu did not know what the madman was thinking. For him, now was not the time to quarrel with the madman, but to do his best to devour the energy in the cliff pool. He had not felt so good in a long time. The energy in the cliff pool was like a bottomless pit, inexhaustible and inexhaustible. In the process of devouring the energy, Ningyu did not forget to transfer the energy to the Red Devil sword, so that the Red Devil, the Dark Emperor, Ninglu, Water Moon Fairy, and Zhao Rui could advance to a higher realm. The Immortal Court was extremely dangerous. Ningyu could not guarantee that he could take care of the Dark Emperor and the others at all times. The cultivation of the few of them had not even reached the Lord of Heaven realm. If they could advance to the Lord of Heaven realm before going to the Immortal Court, it would save Ningyu a lot of trouble. Ka. As the energy in his body increased, the bones all over Ningyu's body made a cracking sound. Originally, Ningyu's war god body bloodline had been fully awakened. But now, with the second refinement of the energy, his war god body bloodline actually felt like it was going to upgrade. In other words, Ningyu was very likely to complete the second refinement of the war god body bloodline. There were some powerful geniuses in the Immortal Court. Their war god body bloodline had even been refined to the 5th and 6th times. It was relatively late for Ningyu to undergo the second refinement now. Swish 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 swish. While Ningyu and the madman were working hard to absorb the energy, 5 martial artists suddenly appeared in another secret room. These 5 martial artists were none other than Shao Duanya, the Western Venerable, the Eastern Venerable, the Northern Venerable, and the Southern Venerable. Opposite them, a huge crystal hung on the wall. Chapter 2393. Cannot afford to offend. Let's see if the two of them can be of great use. Shao Duanya pointed to the crystal wall as he spoke. There's still roughly half a month's time before the secret realm of the Soaring Sky Immortal Empire opens. At that time, experts from many supreme immortal empires would all be mobilized, wanting to get a share of the spoils. Do you guys feel that Ningyu and Madman would be able to guard the entrance at the very end of the secret realm? It's a little difficult. The Reverend of the South frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, Madman's cultivation base has already reached the 5th stage of the half-step Immortal King realm. Even if he devours a large amount of energy, his strength won't increase by much. That's right. You should know that those peerless geniuses from the super immortal domains might be able to fight against a true Immortal King when they are only at the 5th stage half-step Immortal King realm. The Northern Reverend nodded. Unless Ningyu and the Madman are able to kill Immortal King level powerhouses, they'll just be sending themselves to their deaths even if they go, the Western Reverend said. 7 days later, let's find an Immortal King for them to try. Venerable Dongfang smiled and said, if I remember correctly, Ningyu killed Qian Bo, and the Qian family is a great family in Dongfang City. 7 days later, the Immortal King of the Qian family will return. At that time, let Ningyu and Madman fight with the Immortal King of the Qian family first. If they win, we can naturally bring them to the secret realm. If they lose, we will find someone else. Humph. What do you mean? The Western Venerable One harumphed coldly with an unfriendly expression. Qian Bo was from Oriental City. The fact that the Eastern Reverend wanted Ningyu to fight with the Qian clan's Immortal King showed that he was up to no good. Currently, Ningyu was only a first-stage half-step Immortal King. Even if his cultivation base advanced to the second-stage half-step Immortal King after 7 days, it would still be difficult for him to be a match for a true Immortal King. Nothing much. I just want to let some people know that if they do something wrong, they will have to pay the price. The Eastern Venerable One shrugged and said calmly. Venerable Dongfang had been in charge of Dongfang City for many years, and he had long been on good terms with the Qian family. The Qian family's business was his business. He had already told the Qian family's Immortal King through a secret technique that Ningyu had killed Qian Bo. According to the feedback from the Qian family's Immortal King, he was definitely trying his best to delay the time to enter the Immortal Court. There was no other reason. Once they entered the Immortal Court, with Shao Duanya, the Western Reverend, and the others watching, it would be almost impossible for the Qian clan's Immortal King to kill Ningyu. Stop arguing. Shao Duanya's expression turned cold, and he berated, making such a racket, where is your manners? All of you go back and prepare first. Gather at the city governor's mansion in Steep Cliff City 7 days from now. Whoosh. Whoosh. The Eastern Divine Master and the Western Divine Master glared at each other before leaving the room in a flash. As for the Venerable of the North and the Venerable of the South, they tore open the void and entered as well. How troublesome. Only when the Eastern Venerable One and the others had all left did Xiao Duanya rub his head and mumble, "If it weren't for the fact that I still have some use for you, I would have sent you all to hell long ago." Hua. After finishing this sentence, Xiao Duanya also tore open the void and tunneled in. Hu. At the same time, steep cliff pool. Ningyu opened his eyes and slowly exhaled a mouthful of murky air. After a few hours of devouring and refining, his current cultivation had already soared to the peak of the half-step Celestial King realm. Next, as long as he was willing, he could advance to the half-step Celestial King realm at any time. However, Ningyu was not a rash person. It was obviously an irrational action to advance to the half-step Celestial King realm at this time. Compress. Ningyu constantly compressed the energy in his body, striving to be able to easily kill a half-step Celestial King realm expert when he was still a half-step Celestial King realm expert. Ningyu had not forgotten about killing Qian Bo previously, and the Qian clan had a Celestial King expert. Ningyu was very clear about his own strength. If he wanted to contend with a Celestial King realm expert, he had to compress every level to the extreme. Otherwise, even if he advanced to the half-step Celestial King realm, he would definitely not be a match for a Celestial King expert. That was because there was a huge gap between a Celestial King and a half-step Celestial King. Kai. With the constant compression of energy, beads of sweat appeared on Ningyu's forehead. What is he doing? On the other side. When Madman saw Ningyu's action, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. Ningyu was about to advance to the half-step Celestial King realm. But Ningyu, on the other hand, was trying to compress it to the extreme. Was it so easy to reach the extreme? Moreover, even if Ningyu could do it to the extreme, it would be of no help when it came to advancing to the Celestial King realm in the future. Even in the future, when Ningyu advanced to the Celestial King realm, he would feel very regretful because of his current actions. Should I remind him? Madman's eyes turned and he was thinking secretly. After a while, Madman said to Ningyu, "You'd better not compress your energy. Otherwise, when you reach the half-step Celestial King realm, the difficulty of advancing to the Celestial King realm will be much higher than others. Thank you for reminding me." Ningyu smiled at Madman and said, "I'm different from you. I killed Qian Bo of the Qian clan, and the Qian clan is already in a situation where only one of us can survive. In Broken Cliff City, Xiao Duanya and Western Reverend are protecting me. Once I enter the Celestial Court, my end will be very miserable. Actually, you can rely on Xiao Duanya." Madman thought about it and finally said, "Previously, I killed the only grandson of the Qian clan's Celestial King realm like you. From then on, I concealed my identity and attached myself to Xiao Duanya to help him do some things." Ningyu raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Madman's background. It turned out that Madman had offended the Qian clan just like him. The matter of Madman concealing his identity might be related to him offending the Qian clan. "You can't offend the Qian clan. I know why you are compressing the energy, but I have to remind you that the Qian clan is also a colossus in the Celestial Court. Even if you can withstand the attack of the Qian clan's Celestial King, you won't be able to escape misfortune after you enter the Celestial Court." Madman shook his head and said, "Xiao Duanya comes from a super celestial country. If you rely on him, your life will at least be guaranteed." After saying this, Madman didn't wait for Ningyu's reply and started to absorb the energy in the broken cliff pool. Bang bang bang. A few muffled sounds came from within his body. Madman's strength was soaring at an extremely terrifying speed. "The Qian clan is also a colossus in the Celestial Court?" Ningyu's expression was solemn. He had obtained a very important piece of information from Madman. If he wanted to completely get rid of the Qian clan, he had to advance to the Celestial King realm as soon as possible. Even if he advanced to the Celestial King realm, it might still be useless. "Forget it, I'll deal with it when the time comes." Ningyu shook his head forcefully. Then, the devouring power in his body surged out and started to crazily devour the energy in the broken cliff pool. Splash! Just as Ningyu was devouring the energy. Dongfang City, Qian clan's backyard. Chapter 2394. Chapter 2394. Chapter 2394 Analysis here. Congratulations on your return, Brother Chen. As soon as the white-robed old man appeared, a faint chuckle rang out. If Ning Yu had been here, he would have noticed that the cultivator who had laughed was none other than the Eastern Supremacy. After leaving Steep Cliff City, the Eastern Venerable One rushed to the Chen residence in Dongfang City without stopping. Coincidentally, just as the Eastern Supremacy arrived at the Chen family, the Chen family's immortal king, Chen Kun, appeared from the void. Hehe, Brother Dongfang, how have you been? Chen Kun, who was called Brother Chen, also smiled and said, "Thank you, Brother Dongfang, for taking care of the Chen clan while I was away." Sigh, I'm ashamed to say it. Dongfang Venerable One sighed. It's my fault. I couldn't save Chen Bo Wush. Chen Kun's face turned cold, and he said in a low voice, I've long since learned about Chen Bo's death. Now that I've returned, I'll definitely let Ning Yu know how formidable I am. Rumble. During the conversation, Chen Kun suddenly unleashed his aura. The Eastern Venerable One was a little surprised when he sensed the fluctuation of aura coming from Chen Kun. Before Chen Kun went to the Immortal Court, his cultivation was only at the early stage of the Immortal King stage. But now, Chen Kun's cultivation had already made a qualitative breakthrough. Even among early-stage Immortal Kings, their ranking could be interrupted. 7 days later, go to the Broken Cliff City's City Lord's Manor. At that time, I will join forces with the Northern Venerable One to force Xiao Duanya to let Ning Yu and the madman spar with you. The Eastern Venerable One smirked and said eerily, don't hold back when the time comes. Take the opportunity to kill Ning Yu. As for the lunatic, even a madman deserves to die. Without waiting for the Eastern Venerable One to finish his sentence, Chen Kun replied coldly, I've investigated the matter thoroughly. My grandson's murder a few years ago was the work of a madman. Although he concealed his identity, he still couldn't escape my investigation. Very well. The Eastern Venerable One's eyes lit up, then his body turned illusory. I'll go look for the Northern Venerable One first. Remember, you must go to the Broken Cliff City's governor's mansion in 7 days. The Eastern Venerable One's voice became softer and softer until it finally disappeared. Ka. After the Eastern Venerable One left, Chen Kun clenched his fists tightly, his face cold. Ning Yu, you lunatic, I'll let you know the consequences of offending the Chen family. At this moment, in the City Lord's mansion of Western City. Dong dong dong. The Western Venerable One gently tapped the chair he was sitting on with his right hand and calmly said, I've received accurate news that Chen Kun has returned to Eastern City, and the Eastern Venerable One has also gone to Northern City. When Ning Yu comes out of closed-door cultivation in 7 days, the Eastern Venerable One will definitely cause trouble together with Chen Kun. Can we contact the Venerable of the South? Tai Muqiang's expression turned ugly. It wasn't easy for him to find a useful person like Ning Yu. If he was killed by Chen Kun, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? Therefore, no matter what the reason was, he had to ensure Ning Yu's safety. I've contacted the Venerable One of the South a long time ago, but he doesn't really care about these things. The Western Venerable One shook his head and said, the Southern Venerable One will remain neutral. We must rely on ourselves. Rely on myself. Tai Muqiang frowned slightly. Then, he gritted his teeth and said coldly, we might as well go all the way. Let's kill Chen Kun before Ning Yu comes out of closed-door cultivation. Don't be rash. The Western Venerable One quickly said, if you can think of assassinating Chen Kun will definitely think of it too. Who knows, he might have already set up a trap and is waiting for us to fall into it. What should we do then? We can't just watch as Ning Yu is killed, can we? Tai Muqiang said angrily, I don't care. If Chen Kun dares to fight Ning Yu in 7 days, I'll definitely stop him. Actually, there's another way. The Western Venerable One thought for a while and said, we don't have to stop him. We just need to give Ning Yu some trump cards when the time comes. Tai Muqiang was slightly stunned, then looked at the Western Venerable One in shock. Tai Muqiang was no fool. He understood what the Western Venerable One meant. Giving Ning Yu trump cards meant that Ning Yu would have to fight Chen Kun. In other words, the Western Venerable One thought highly of Ningyu and felt that Ningyu's strength would soar in 7 days. At the very least, he would be able to resist Chen Kun's attack. That was an immortal king. Even the weakest immortal king could easily kill a 5th stage half-step immortal king. Since ancient times, only some peerless super-immortal king geniuses could fight against immortal king powerhouses when they were only at the 5th stage half-step immortal king. Could it be the Western Venerable had such a high opinion of Ningyu? You have to know that we don't want Ningyu to die in battle. Xiao Duanya doesn't want that either. The Western Venerable One said in a deep voice, "Just do as I say. 7 days later, we will secretly give Ningyu some trump cards." All right. Since the Western Venerable had already put it this way, there was no need for Tai Muqiang to argue anymore. His figure flashed and he was about to leave. At this moment, in a certain inn in Broken Cliff City, Yang Yuming and Mo Qiong were arguing. Yang Yuming, hurry up and return the 20,000 two-world stones to me. Mo Qiong stared at Yang Yuming with a cold expression and said coldly, "According to the bet, you lost. Not only do you have to return the 20,000 two-world stones, but you also have to submit to me and listen to my orders." Fut. Yang Yuming spat and said coldly, "Ningyu won the final championship. You have to listen to my orders." Wrong. Mo Qiong said angrily, "Ningyu didn't win the championship. He and Feng Zi tied for the championship." "Tied for the championship isn't the championship?" Yang Yuming asked. "That's different." Mo Qiong argued. "Forget it. I don't want to talk nonsense with you." Yang Yuming waved his hand and said, "I already know about your character. I am already satisfied to be able to win 20,000 two-world stones from you. We will meet again." Swoosh. As they spoke, Yang Yuming's figure flashed and disappeared. Swoosh. As soon as Yang Yuming left, a martial artist appeared from the void. "Young master, do you want me to?" After this martial artist appeared, he placed his right hand on his neck and said fiercely, "Don't mess around." Mo Qiong said in a deep voice, "Yang Yuming's status in his super celestial kingdom is equal to mine, or even higher. I dare to guarantee that before you killed Yang Yuming, you were already killed by the people Yang Yuming is secretly protecting." Someone is secretly protecting Yang Yuming? The martial artist with the crew cut who appeared was surprised. He was an immortal king, and his perception was extremely strong. Even he couldn't discover it. How did Mo Qiong discover it? Swish. As if sensing the doubts of the crew-cut immortal king, Mo Qiong took out a crystal ball and shook it, saying, "This is the immortal king detector. There are a few red dots on it, which means that there are a few immortal kings around." Chapter 2395. 2395. Advance. Gasp. The cultivator with the crew cut gasped when he heard Mo Qiong's analysis. That was close. Luckily, he did not attack Yang Yuming on his own. Otherwise, he might have ended up dead. Let's observe the situation first. Let's wait for Ningyu and the madman to come out from the steep cliff pool. Mo Qiong clenched his fists tightly. His eyes turned extremely cold. Mo Qiong was no fool. He had thoroughly offended Ningyu. It was obvious that it was impossible for Ningyu to join his celestial kingdom and become his subordinate. However, since he had no way of subduing Ningyu, he could not let Yang Yuming come into contact with Ningyu either. After all, the current situation was extremely unfavorable to him. If Yang Yuming gave Ningyu 10,000 two realm stones, Ningyu might really submit to Yang Yuming. Therefore, in order to prevent such a thing from happening, Mo Qiong must not let Ningyu come into contact with Yang Yuming. All right. The flat-top immortal king nodded. Then, his body gradually turned illusory and merged into the void, disappearing. Bang! Meanwhile, inside the steep cliff pool, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out from the madman's body. However, judging from the aura, the madman's strength was extremely close to the immortal king realm. That being said, the madman's true strength was still an insurmountable distance away from the immortal king realm. Bang! As soon as the madman's aura burst out, a muffled sound came from Ningyu's body. Third phase half-immortal king realm? The madman was astonished when he sensed the aura coming from Ningyu's body. It had been 3 days since he and Ningyu entered the steep cliff pool. In these 3 days, the madman's cultivation had yet to break through to the immortal king realm. Only the energy in his body had increased. Originally, madman thought that he would benefit the most, but now, after seeing Ningyu's aura fluctuations, he knew that he was wrong, and extremely wrong. If he could be said to be evenly matched with Ningyu before entering the cliff pool, then Ningyu would not need to spend too much time and effort to defeat him now. Take this. It was obvious that the madman was not willing to give up. He slapped the surface of the pool with both hands and his body turned into a blur as he charged out. The madman's speed was very fast. In almost an instant, he arrived in front of Ningyu. His right hand clenched into a fist, and with a violent wave of energy, he ruthlessly punched at Ningyu's chest. Because it was just a spar, madman did not use his full strength in this punch. He only used 50% of his strength. Although it was only 50% of his strength, if a 5th stage half-step immortal king was here, he would probably faint from fright. The reason for that was because the might of the lunatic's punch was truly too terrifying. Almost no one who had just advanced to the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm could withstand it. Even some veteran 5th stage half-step immortal king realm experts would have to reconsider whether they could withstand the lunatic's terrifying punch. 50% of my strength. Looking at the lunatic charging towards him, Ningyu's expression turned slightly solemn. It was not that Ningyu was afraid of the lunatic, but he was afraid of accidentally injuring the lunatic. After all, his current cultivation base was at the 3rd stage half-step immortal king realm. His overall strength had already increased by several times. Even if he only used 50% of his strength, he could still easily defeat the lunatic. Hi, forget it. With a sigh, Ningyu gathered the energy in his body on his fist and threw a punch. This punch, Ningyu did not use 50% of his strength, but 10% of his strength. Bang! Along with a crisp sound, Ningyu stood on the spot without moving. As for the madman, he was blasted out of the cliff pool. You, the lunatic's eyes widened as he pointed at Ningyu. His face was filled with astonishment. He knew that Ningyu was very strong, but he did not expect it to be this strong. According to his observation, the strength that Ningyu displayed just now did not exceed 10%. One had to know that he had used a full 50% of his strength. 10% of Ningyu's strength against 50% of his strength, yet Ningyu was still able to easily defeat him. It could be imagined how formidable Ningyu's strength was. The more he thought about it, the more shocked he was. However, being shocked was just being shocked. After the lunatic tested his strength, he did not launch a second attack at Ningyu. This was because the lunatic knew very well that he and Ningyu were people from 2 different worlds. If Ningyu wanted to defeat him, it would be effortless. Plop. It was unknown if the lunatic had suffered a blow, but he leaped into the cliff pool. Kai. The devouring power surged out crazily, and the energy of the cliff pool continuously entered the lunatic's body. With every surge of energy in his body, the lunatic would secretly calculate the difference between him and Ningyu. Rumble. While the lunatic was devouring the energy in the cliff pool, Ningyu had already started to use the energy to temper his body. Xiao Duanya had given Ningyu a few advancement pills, but Ningyu knew that with the strength of his body right now, if he were to forcefully consume the advancement pills, the final result would be his body exploding and he would die. Therefore, Ningyu wanted to use the energy in the cliff pool to temper his body. When his body strength reached the immortal king level, he would be able to consume the advancement pills. Gulp. As the lunatic devoured the energy, he paid attention to Ningyu's actions. When he saw Ningyu using the energy to temper his body, he could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Energy tempering his body. To be honest, the lunatic also wanted to use the energy to temper his body. However, energy tempering would waste a lot of time. Comparatively speaking, the lunatic preferred to devour energy to increase his strength. After all, as long as his strength increased, it did not matter if his body strength was slightly weaker. Anyway, when he advanced to the immortal king level, his body would undergo a whole new tempering. At that time, his body strength would have a qualitative increase. Ningyu did not care what the lunatic was thinking. To him, the most important thing was to use the energy to temper his body, and then consume the advancement pills to increase his cultivation. Drip, drip. Time passed by the minutes and seconds. The 4th day passed, and Ningyu increased his body strength to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King level. A 5th stage half-step Immortal King obviously could not consume the 3rd advancement pill. On the 5th day, Ningyu had already increased his body strength to infinitely close to the Immortal King level. Still not enough. Crack, crack, crack. On the 6th day, Ningyu's body gave off cracking sounds. Good. Ningyu could not help but clap his hands and cheer. Crack. Without wasting any time, Ningyu directly took out an advancement pill from his bosom and threw it into his mouth to chew. Boom. Once the advancement pill entered his mouth, it went down Ningyu's throat and into his stomach. As Ningyu continued to circulate his technique to refine the advancement pill, it was quickly refined. When the 7th day quietly arrived, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly emitted from Ningyu's body. 4th stage half-step Immortal King. Chapter 2396. Chapter 2396. Chapter 2396 Provocation. Gulp. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Ningyu, the madman swallowed his saliva again. 4th stage half-step Immortal King. The madman was in a bad mood. Although he knew that Ningyu would definitely advance to the 4th stage half-step Immortal King, he did not expect it to be so fast. There was only 1 day left before the 7 days were up. And Ningyu still had 2 ascension pills on him. The madman even suspected that Ningyu would consume another ascension pill to raise his cultivation to the 5th stage half-step Immortal King. Very good. Ningyu did not care what the madman was thinking. He first used his internal insight technique to check the condition of his body, then nodded in satisfaction. After advancing to the 4th stage half-step Immortal King, Ningyu was confident that he could fight against a real Immortal King. Before, Ningyu's cultivation was only at the 1st stage half-step Immortal King. If he encountered an Immortal King powerhouse, he could only hold a grudge and would not even have the chance to escape. Now that he had advanced to the 4th stage half-step Immortal King, he was confident that he could even fight against a real Immortal King. There's still 1 more day. Ningyu frowned slightly. On the last day, it would be very difficult to increase his cultivation by another level. However, he did not want to waste the last day. After thinking about it, the devouring power in Ningyu's body surged wildly and started to devour the energy in the cliff pool. Kai kai. Because of the cultivation substitute, Ningyu's devouring speed was several times faster. In just a few hours, Ningyu had devoured the energy that the madman needed a day to devour. I can't believe it. The madman had been paying attention to Ningyu's actions. When he saw that Ningyu's devouring speed had increased again, he immediately cursed. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. He cultivated painstakingly and devoured energy diligently. Ningyu, on the other hand, without any effort, he raised his cultivation to the stage 4 half-step Immortal King realm, and even devoured a large amount of energy. Faster. The madman was not one to fall behind. He activated the spell technique within his body to its maximum extent and began to devour energy, trying to devour as much energy as possible before the time limit expired. Drip, drip. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Creak. Xiao Duanya's concept of time was very important. As soon as the time was up, he opened the door of the room where the cliff pool was and said to Ningyu and Fengzi, "You can come out now." Huala, huala. Ningyu and Fengzi would not stay at the cliff pond and refused to leave. Before Xiao Duanya could speak, they had already left the cliff pool and were heading outside. Catcher. Just as Ningyu and the madman left the room where the broken cliff pool was, the space around them trembled. Then, several figures descended. These figures were not strangers. The Western Venerable, the Eastern Venerable, the Northern Venerable, and the Southern Venerable. From the positions of the 4 of them, it was obvious that they were divided into 3 camps. The Eastern Venerable and the Northern Venerable were in one camp, while the Southern Venerable and the Western Venerable were in their own camps. Ningyu, you killed Chen Bo. Although I tried my best to help you, the immortal king of the Chen clan did not listen to me and insisted on coming to find you personally. Swoosh. Just as the Eastern Venerable finished his sentence, the void split open again, and a white-robed old man slowly appeared in front of everyone. Chen Kun. Seeing the martial artist in white, the Western Venerable's face turned extremely cold. The person was none other than the immortal king of the Chen clan, Chen Kun. The Western Venerable knew that the Eastern Venerable was in contact with Chen Kun secretly, but he did not expect Chen Kun to appear at this juncture. One had to know. He had not given Ningyu his trump card that he had prepared. If Chen Kun wanted to spar with Ningyu, wouldn't he cry to death? This is Cliff City, not your Chen clan's territory. Xiao Duanya's face did not look too good. Chen Kun openly coming to Cliff City was obviously a provocation to him. After all, Chen Kun was an immortal king expert. According to the agreement, if this kind of immortal king expert wanted to go to another city, he had to inform him in advance. Just like Tai Muqiang, before he came to Cliff Lake, he had informed Xiao Duanya first. Haha, brother Duanya, why are you so angry? Chen Kun smiled and said, this time, I did not come to cause trouble, but to spar with Ningyu. Humph. You are an immortal king, and Ningyu is only a fourth stage half-step immortal king. Aren't you ashamed to spar with him? Xiao Duanya snorted coldly. He had wanted to say that there was a huge difference in cultivation between Ningyu and Chen Kun. However, he suddenly realized that Ningyu had advanced to a fourth stage half-step immortal king. This discovery gave him a huge shock. He had originally thought that after 7 days, Ningyu would at most advance to a third stage half-step immortal king. However, Ningyu gave him a huge surprise. In 7 days, his cultivation soared by 3 stages. This kind of cultivation speed really surprised him. What's the big deal? Chen Kun shrugged and said, Ningyu killed Chen Bo of the Chen clan, so he naturally has to receive the punishment he deserves. How about this? I'll give Ningyu a chance. Clap clap. As they spoke, Chen Kun clapped his hands. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Then, 3 martial artists flew over from afar and landed. Chen Wen, Chen Lingxue, Chen Ming. The 3 of them were all at the 5th stage half-step immortal king realm. Furthermore, they were only half a step away from a true immortal king. Chen Kun pointed at Chen Wen and the others and said, as long as Ningyu can easily defeat the 3 of them, I will suppress my cultivation to a 4th stage half-step immortal king and spar with Ningyu. Is that true? Hearing Chen Kun's words, Xiao Duanya frowned and said, if it was really as Chen Kun said, then Ningyu might be able to spar with him. Although Chen Kun was an immortal king with battle experience and many trump cards. However, in a spar with the same cultivation, Ningyu might not be defeated. Really? Chen Kun said indifferently. Xiao Duanya thought for a while, then shifted his gaze to Ningyu and asked, what do you think about Chen Kun's request? Sure. Ningyu said almost without thinking. Even if Chen Kun did not suppress his cultivation, Ningyu felt that he could contend with him. Once Chen Kun suppressed his cultivation to a 4th stage half-step immortal king, then Ningyu would have a 99% chance of killing him. Chen Wen, you go first. After getting Ningyu's affirmative answer, Chen Kun said coldly, although it is not advisable to kill in a spar, since it is a battle, there will inevitably be casualties. You have to be careful. Understood. Chen Wen nodded and said, even a lion will use its full strength to catch a rabbit, let alone a martial artist with a lower cultivation than me. Obviously. Chen Wen was mocking Ningyu. Ningyu did not take Chen Wen's mockery to heart at all. You can mock me all you want. Anyway, you will be easily defeated by me later. Humph. Seeing that Ningyu was indifferent, Chen Wen snorted coldly, then stomped on the ground and was about to rush out. Wait. Chapter 2397. Defeat. Wager. Chen Wen raised his eyebrows and looked at Ningyu with interest. He asked, what wager do you want? 1,002 realm stones? Haha, aren't you being too petty? Ningyu smiled and extended a finger. He said, 10,002 realm stones. If you defeat me, I will give you 10,002 realm stones. If I defeat you, you will give me 10,002 realm stones. Swoosh. Chen Wen's expression changed slightly. He did not expect Ningyu to propose such a wager. One should know that 10,002 realm stones was not a small sum. He definitely could not afford it. Could Ningyu afford it? He was skeptical. After all, Ningyu was only a level 4 half-step celestial king. It did not make sense for him to have so many 2 realm stones. You don't dare. Ningyu twitched his mouth and said, come on, let me see what kind of ability you have. You don't even dare to bet 10,002 realm stones. I will bet on his behalf. Before Ningyu had finished speaking, Chen Kun stepped forward and took out a spatial ring. He said, there are 10,002 realm stones in here. If you can defeat Chen Wen in 3 moves, it will be yours. To be honest. Although Chen Kun was very confident in Chen Wen, he did not think that Chen Wen could defeat Ningyu. After all, Ningyu could become the champion of the Broken Cliff meeting and cultivate for 7 days in the Broken Cliff pool. He must be very powerful. He let Chen Wen and the others fight not to defeat Ningyu, but to create a buffer between him and Xiao Duanya. Otherwise, Xiao Duanya would not have agreed to fight with Ningyu. Defeat Chen Wen in 3 moves. Ningyu raised his eyebrows and extended a finger. He said, 1 move. I only need 1 move to defeat Chen Wen. Arrogant. Chen Wen was furious. He stomped on the ground and dashed forward. Almost instantly, Chen Wen arrived in front of Ningyu. His right hand clenched into a fist, bringing with it a violent gale of energy. He ruthlessly punched towards Ningyu's head. Chen Wen's punch was powerful, and he even used his trump card. However, whether Chen Wen used his trump card or not, it did not have much effect on Ningyu. Bang! When Chen Wen arrived in front of him, Ningyu gently pushed out his right hand. Along with a clear and melodious sound rang out. Chen Wen's body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Poochie. As his body hit the ground, Chen Wen spurted out a mouthful of blood. His aura instantly dropped from the 5th stage half-step Celestial King realm to the 1st stage half-step Celestial King realm. 1 move. Ningyu had only used 1 move to defeat Chen Wen, who was only half a step away from becoming an immortal king. Whoosh. Seeing Chen Wen defeated, the expressions of the surrounding people changed slightly. Especially Chen Kun. His face was cold, and his body was even trembling. Losing 10,002 realm stones was a small matter. Now, he doubted whether he could kill Ningyu after suppressing his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step Celestial King realm. This was the key. Give it to me. After defeating Chen Wen casually, Ningyu stretched out his right hand and said to Chen Kun, you lost the bet. 10,002 realm stones, you won't go back on your words, right? Humph. Chen Kun snorted coldly. He flicked his wrist and threw the interspatial ring to Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu bent his legs slightly and caught the interspatial ring with his right hand. Obviously. Chen Kun quietly injected a force into the interspatial ring. Chen Kun wanted to use this force to hurt Ningyu, but Ningyu noticed it and easily broke Chen Kun's attack. Chen Lingxue. Chen Kun turned to look at Chen Lingxue and said coldly, go and fight with Ningyu. This time, no matter what, you have to withstand 3 moves. Yes. Chen Lingxue's expression was grim. Her strength was similar to Chen Wen's. Even if she was stronger than Chen Wen, she wouldn't be much stronger. The fact that Ningyu could defeat Chen Wen in 1 move meant that he would probably only need 1 or 2 moves to defeat her. Now that Chen Kun wanted her to withstand 3 moves, it was extremely difficult. Swoosh. Just as Chen Lingxue was thinking about how she could withstand 3 moves, a force secretly entered her body. Chen Kun struck. In order to ensure that Chen Lingxue could withstand 3 moves, he left a terrifying force in her body. He could withstand 10,002 realm stones. However, even he couldn't withstand 20,000 or 30,000. Ningyu, are you betting this time? After injecting the force into Chen Lingxue's body, Chen Kun looked at Ningyu and said loudly, 3 moves. If you can't defeat Chen Lingxue within 3 moves, you'll have to return the 10,002 realm stones that you won earlier to me. Of course, if you can defeat Chen Lingxue within 3 moves, I'll also give you 10,002 realm stones. Deal. Ningyu was delighted. Chen Kun was really like a pig. Giving him 2 realm stones one after another was no different from a fortune teller. Go. Chen Kun patted Chen Lingxue's shoulder and said in a deep voice, you can only win. You can't lose. Swoosh. With Chen Kun's patting, Chen Lingxue quickly came in front of Ningyu. Pest. On her fist, terrifying energy and force intertwined with each other, giving off a sizzling sound. Something fishy? Seeing the change in Chen Lingxue's fist, Ningyu raised his eyebrows and realized that something was wrong. Originally, he didn't need 3 moves to defeat Chen Lingxue. In fact, he only needed 1 move. However, if he wanted to defeat Chen Lingxue within 3 moves now, it would probably be more difficult. Ningyu was too careless. Xiao Duanya shook his head and said. He naturally saw that Chen Kun had done something. However, he didn't plan to help Ningyu. In his opinion, it wasn't a big deal for Ningyu to lose a wager. Instead, it could make Ningyu change his temper. After all, he would definitely have to fight Chen Kun next. He could be arrogant when fighting others, but if he were to be arrogant when fighting Chen Kun, he would definitely suffer. I don't think so. The madman shook his head and said, Ningyu is very powerful. Even 2 or 3 of me might not be his match. Oh. Xiao Duanya was slightly surprised. He understood the madman very well. Ever since the madman relied on him, he had never shown such fear towards anyone. Since the madman thought so highly of Ningyu, it meant that Ningyu's performance in the cliff pool had completely won over the madman. At this moment, Xiao Duanya even felt a little regretful. Because he had something to do, he didn't contact him and observe him for 7 days. From the madman's words, he could conclude that he had missed out on something. Bang! Xiao Duanya was still feeling regretful, but the battle over there had already ended. How is this possible? Chen Kun's mouth was slightly open, and her entire person was stunned on the spot. 1 move. It was the same as defeating Chen Wen. Ningyu defeated Chen Lingxue with just 1 move again. He had left a force in Chen Lingxue's body. Just that force alone was enough to kill a 5th stage half-step Celestial King expert. How did Ningyu do it? He first broke his force, then sent Chen Lingxue flying with a punch. Nothing is impossible. Chapter 2398. Chapter 2398. Chapter 2398. A fight to the death, damn it. Chen Kun was furious. He originally thought that Chen Lingxue would be able to withstand 3 moves. Who would have thought that Chen Lingxue wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move and would be easily defeated by Ningyu? Here. Helpless, Chen Kun could only take out another space ring and throw it to Ningyu. In addition to the 10,002 world stones she had just lost, Chen Kun had lost a total of 20,002 world stones. With so many 2 world stones, even Chen Kun felt some pressure. Chen Ming. Chen Kun glared at the last cultivator with a gloomy expression on his face and said fiercely, "You're one of the top 3 peerless experts of the Chen family in Oriental City. If you can't withstand 3 moves from Ningyu, I'll let you know the true meaning of cruelty." Whoosh. Chen Ming shuddered when he heard Chen Kun's slightly threatening words. Block 3 moves. It didn't seem difficult, but in reality, it was extremely difficult. He had sparred with Chen Wen and Chen Lingxue before. At that time, he had fought Chen Wen and Chen Lingxue alone, and it had taken him 5 moves to win. From this, it was extremely difficult for him to withstand 3 moves from Ningyu. However, no matter how difficult it was, Chen Ming had to brace himself and go through it. He was one of the top 3 experts of the Chen clan in Oriental City. If Ningyu managed to defeat all 3 of them, it would be very difficult for the Chen family to gain a foothold in Dongfang City. Taking a deep breath, Chen Ming nodded heavily and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, even if I suffer a heavy injury, I will absolutely not let Ningyu defeat me within 3 moves." Poochie. Ningyu couldn't help but laugh. He thought that Chen Ming would say something harsh, but in the end, he actually said this. When others became ruthless, they would want to defeat their opponents. Chen Ming, on the other hand, was determined to not be defeated by Ningyu within 3 moves. What are you laughing at? Chen Ming said coldly, since you and Chen Wen have stakes in the fight, then the fight between us must also have some stakes. Whoosh. With a flick of his wrist, a pill appeared in Chen Ming's hand. Promotion pill. The medicinal pill in Chen Ming's hand was a promotion pill. Shaking the ascension pill, Chen Ming said in a low voice, if you can't defeat me within 3 moves, then you have to give me your ascension pill. Otherwise, I'll give this ascension pill to you. Stop. Ningyu hurriedly said, according to the usual practice, the wager for this fight with you should be 10,000 2 realm stones. Now that you've taken out a promotion pill, what's the meaning of this? You. Chen Ming was so angry that his nose became crooked. What a wishful thinking. He wanted to change the topic so that Ningyu would not raise the bet of 10,000 2 realm stones. In the end, Ningyu didn't buy it. Chen Ming took a deep breath and shifted his gaze to Chen Kun. He definitely could not afford 10,000 2 world stones. Unless Chen Kun sponsored him, he might not even be able to fight against Ningyu. I'll go. Chen Kun gritted his teeth and said with a ferocious expression, you better hope that you can still be so arrogant when you fight me later. Hehe, you don't have to worry about that, Ningyu said with a faint smile. Swoosh. As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, Chen Ming stomped on the ground and his body immediately darted out. Boom. Terrifying energy surged out of his body. In an instant, an energy shield appeared around Chen Ming. Take my punch. With a roar, Chen Ming's iron-like fist blasted toward Ningyu's head. Crack. At the next moment, a crisp sound rang out. Not good. The crisp sound that came to his ears caused Chen Ming's expression to change drastically. He didn't have time to attack Ningyu, so he immediately chose to retreat. It's too late to think of retreating now. After smashing the energy shield with a punch, Ningyu's fist blasted toward Chen Ming's chest. Boom. A muffled sound rang out. Chen Ming was like a kite with a broken string, flying backward in a straight line. It was the same scene. Against Chen Ming, Ningyu only used 1 move. Give me 10,000 2 realm stones. Ningyu stretched out his hand and looked at Chen Kun. Here you go. Chen Kun gritted his teeth and said, next, I want to spar with you. Let's make a big bet. 30,000 2 realm stones. Pa. Catching the 2 realm stones that Chen Kun threw over, Ningyu shrugged and said, tell me, how do you want to bet? It's very simple. If you can defeat me in 3 moves, I'll give you 30,000 2 realm stones. Otherwise, you give me 30,000 2 realm stones, Chen Kun said coldly. Fart. Ningyu laughed out loud. Chen Kun was as funny as Chen Ming. Defeating a celestial king powerhouse in 3 moves. What a joke. Ningyu was very clear about his own strength. Although Chen Kun had suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step celestial king realm, it would be difficult for him to defeat Chen Kun without dozens of moves. Then how do you want to bet? Chen Kun said in a low voice. How about this, let's not bet and just fight to the death. If you win me, everything I have will belong to you. If I win you, everything you have will belong to me, Ningyu said after thinking for a while. Okay. Chen Kun agreed on the spot. Such a good opportunity was like a pie falling from the sky. Chen Kun was worried about not being able to propose a life-and-death battle, but Ningyu had solved this problem for him. Don't be impulsive, the Western Venerable hurriedly said. Even Tai Muqiang tried to stop him. A life-and-death battle with Chen Kun was an extremely unwise decision. After all, if it was a normal fight, the 2 of them could take care of each other and save Ningyu's life when it was necessary. But once it was a life-and-death battle, unless it was a life-and-death battle, they would not be able to participate. What do you mean by don't be impulsive? The Eastern Venerable and the Northern Venerable took a step forward and stood in front of Tai Muqiang and the Western Venerable. They said coldly, the life-and-death battle was proposed by Ningyu. Chen Kun was only forced to accept the challenge. You. The Western Venerable was enraged. The aura in his body was suddenly unleashed. You what? The Eastern Venerable was not afraid in the slightest. He unleashed his aura and clashed with the aura of the Western Venerable. Kai Kai. The two terrifying auras clashed. In an instant, the void trembled and several cracks appeared. Rumble. The Eastern Venerable faced off against the Western Venerable, while Tai Muqiang faced off against the Northern Venerable. All of a sudden, all kinds of techniques were unleashed, and the aura continued to rise. Enough. At this moment, Xiao Duanya said coldly, "If anyone dares to unleash their aura again, don't blame me for being impolite." Swoosh. The moment Xiao Duanya spoke, the Eastern Venerable and the others all stopped. This was Broken Cliff City, Xiao Duanya's headquarters. They could force Xiao Duanya, but they could not really provoke him. Otherwise, once Xiao Duanya unleashed his aura, the following spar between Chen Kun and Ning Yu would be cancelled. Have you thought this through? Xiao Duanya did not care about what the Eastern Venerable and the others were thinking. Instead, he turned to look at Ning Yu and asked, Chen Kun is an expert of the Celestial King level. Even if he suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage, half a step away from the Celestial King level, he would still be an unparalleled expert. I have thought this through. Ning Yu knew that Xiao Duanya was doing this for his own good. However, his decision to have a life-and-death battle with Chen Kun was not an impulsive one. Rather than being constantly targeted by Chen Kun, he might as well take advantage of the fact that Xiao Duanya and the others were here to completely get rid of the trouble that was Chen Kun. Chapter 2399. Chapter 2399. Chapter 239. Too much nonsense. Although he had killed Chen Kun, there were still many experts from the Chen clan in Oriental City. However, if even someone as strong as Chen Kun was killed, would those nobodies from the Chen clan in Oriental City dare to oppose him? The answer was obviously no. Alright, since you have already made your decision, I will not say anything more. Xiao Duanya took a few steps back. His gaze swept across the Eastern Venerable One and the Northern Venerable One as he said in a low voice, "If I discover that someone has secretly interfered in the spar between Ning Yu and Chen Kun, I will let them know what cruelty is." Crash. As he spoke, Xiao Duanya took out a scroll from his bosom and threw it into the air. Boom. As soon as the scroll reached the air, it exploded with a loud bang. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Next, 4 huge pillars of light appeared from the direction of the explosion of the scroll, firmly occupying 4 directions. The battlefield of massacre. Evidently, the scroll that Xiao Duanya took out was a scroll of the battlefield of massacre. As for the battlefield of massacre, it was a battlefield left behind from the ancient era, specifically for battles of life and death. When 2 warriors in a battle of life and death entered the battlefield of massacre to fight, they could be free from outside interference and focus on killing their enemies. The 2 of you go in. Xiao Duanya pointed at the battlefield of massacre and said, "In a battle of life and death are determined by fate. Who wins and who loses depends on your own luck." Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Chen Kun directly jumped into the battlefield of massacre. Ning Yu looked at the battlefield of massacre, then looked at Xiao Duanya. For some reason, Ning Yu still felt that the battlefield of massacre was a little special. As for what was special, Ning Yu could not tell. Forget it. I'll deal with it as it comes. Shaking his head, Ning Yu leaped up and jumped into the battlefield of massacre like Chen Kun. I have to say, you are very arrogant. Chen Kun looked at Ning Yu in front of her and said in a low voice, "Ever since I advanced to the Celestial King realm, you are the first rank 4 half-step Celestial King to have a battle of life and death with me." "It is my honor," Ning Yu said indifferently. "Hehe, you sure are calm." Chen Kun smiled and said, "What a pity. If you hadn't killed Chen Bo, I could have taken you as a slave." So much nonsense. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, "I really don't understand how a piece of trash like you managed to cultivate to the Immortal King realm. Trying to provoke me? You're too naive." Chen Kun was unmoved. In a battle between experts, the slightest bit of carelessness would result in a calamity. Furthermore, it was a fight to the death between him and Ning Yu. If Chen Kun hadn't suppressed his cultivation base to the 4th stage half-step Immortal King realm, he was absolutely confident that he could kill Ning Yu. However, After suppressing his cultivation base to the 4th stage half-step Immortal King realm, Chen Kun didn't have much confidence in killing Ningyu. So, he definitely wouldn't choose to take the initiative. His strategy was to use inaction to counter myriad movement. Unexpectedly, Ningyu had the same thoughts as him. If the enemy does not move, I will not move. All of a sudden, on the battlefield, there was a cycle. Ningyu and Chen Kun used words to provoke each other, but didn't take the initiative to attack. What are they doing? Eastern Venerable was a little dissatisfied and said, a dignified Immortal King realm expert is actually so hesitant against a 4th stage half-step Immortal King realm. No wonder the Chen clan sent him to Eastern City. The Chen clan was a colossus in the Immortal Court. Ordinary Chen clan Immortal Kings mostly cultivated in the Immortal Court. Chen Kun was chosen to leave the Immortal Court and come to Eastern City because he was more careful and had poor talent. In the Immortal Court Chen clan, although Chen Kun was an Immortal King, his status was very low. Eastern Venerable, according to our previous agreement, I will remain neutral in another half an hour. Northern Venerable transmitted his voice to Eastern Venerable. As the ruler of Northern City, Northern Venerable didn't want to completely offend Xiao Duanya. Especially Xiao Duanya's performance, which made him very nervous. There was no other reason. He discovered that Xiao Duanya's cultivation base was very likely to be at the intermediate Immortal King realm. A intermediate Immortal King realm expert had an overwhelming advantage against an early Immortal King realm expert. No problem, Eastern Venerable said in a deep voice. In order to invite Northern Venerable to support him, he had paid a huge price. Just think about it. If it wasn't for Northern Venerable, he would have been completely suppressed by Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang. Can Ningyu defeat Chen Kun? On the other side, Tai Muqiang stared at Ningyu and Chen Kun in the battlefield with a slightly worried expression. Chen Kun was an Immortal King. In the life and death battle between Ningyu and Chen Kun, the chances of him winning were not too high. It's hard to say. Western Venerable shook his head and said in a deep voice, since Ningyu dares to have a life and death battle with Chen Kun, it means that he has the confidence. It's good to have confidence, but I'm afraid, Tai Muqiang didn't continue his sentence. Swish. At the same time, in the battlefield, Chen Kun finally couldn't take it anymore and started to move. Stepping on the ground, Chen Kun turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Ningyu. He clenched his right fist. Chen Kun punched at Ningyu's head with a terrifying energy wave. Chen Kun didn't use his full strength in the first move. Instead, he used 30% of his strength to test Ningyu's strength. Good move. Looking at Chen Kun who was approaching him, Ningyu took a step forward and clenched his right fist. Bang! The two fists collided. Ningyu and Chen Kun were both sent flying several feet away and retreated to the edge of the battlefield. This attack. Ningyu and Chen Kun were evenly matched. Neither could do anything to the other. He's so strong. Chen Kun was shocked. Through this move, he could basically conclude that Ningyu's strength was extremely formidable. Even if he didn't suppress his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step to Immortal King, he would need to spend some effort to defeat Ningyu. Now that he had suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step to Immortal King, the difficulty of defeating Ningyu would probably increase by several times. Taking a deep breath, Chen Kun looked at Ningyu coldly and said, "Your strength is SOSO. Now, I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel and kowtow to me a few times. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Have you lost your mind?" Ningyu's mouth was slightly open as he looked at Chen Kun in surprise. In a battle of life and death, Chen Kun wanted him to submit. Either his head was rusty, or it was filled with water. "I'll also give you a word," Ningyu said lightly, "submit to me, or this day next year will be the anniversary of your death." Arrogant. Chen Kun flew into a rage. He was an Immortal King, and he was qualified to make Ningyu submit. Who did Ningyu think he was? A mere 4th stage half-step to Immortal King dared to speak to him like this. Although he was angry, Chen Kun did not lose his reason. He twisted his neck and said coldly, "Because of your stupidity, I've decided to cut you into pieces and grind your bones to ashes, noisy." Ningyu interrupted Chen Kun's words, and his figure flashed as he suddenly dashed out. When two people fought, once the momentum was broken, these harsh words would be useless. To put it simply, if Chen Kun said these harsh words before he attacked, it might have a deterrent effect. Chapter 2400. Defeat Die. Looking at Ningyu, who was charging at him, Chen Kun's face turned cold. He gathered all the energy in his body on his fist and punched out with a backhand. This punch. Chen Kun did not hold back. After all, no matter what, he was a Celestial King stage powerhouse. Although he had suppressed his cultivation to that of a level 4 half-step Immortal King, he was evenly matched with Ningyu, who was also a level 4 half-step Immortal King. If this matter spread out, he would lose face. Therefore, the next punch was very important to him. If he could kill Ningyu in a domineering manner, then he could still save his face. Once he was blocked by Ningyu, he would lose face. I'm serious. Although Ningyu was taking the initiative to attack, he did not dare to relax. Chen Kun, who was an Immortal King, should not be underestimated. Sky-reaching disc. At this critical moment, Ningyu shook his wrist and took out a middle-stage Immortal King magic treasure, the sky-reaching disc. Kai. The energy in his body was constantly injected into the sky-reaching disc. With the injection of energy, the sky-reaching disc became bigger and bigger. In the end, it even enveloped the entire battlefield within it. Next, Ningyu raised his hands gently and suddenly pressed down. Whoosh! The huge sky-reaching disc pressed down on Chen Kun at an extremely terrifying speed. I'm going to kill you. Seeing the sky-reaching disc that almost enveloped the whole battlefield pressing down on him, Chen Kun cursed. Helpless. He could only clench his teeth and hit the sky-reaching disc with his right hand. Bang! In a flash, Chen Kun's fist collided with the sky-reaching disc. The two collided. The sky-reaching disc stood in mid-air unscathed. On the other hand, Chen Kun's right hand was broken and his body was smashed into the ground. Crack! The heart-wrenching pain from his broken fist made Chen Kun's face pale. His aura began to decline rapidly. Swoosh! One hit was successful. Ningyu did not stop. He stomped on the ground and dashed out again. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. When dealing with a Celestial King powerhouse like Chen Kun, Ningyu would definitely not hold back. It seems like Chen Kun is going to lose. Seeing as Ningyu attacked again, the Eastern Venerable Lord's face turned ghastly. He chose to support Chen Kun. If Chen Kun was killed in the end, one could imagine how miserable his end would be. Although he would not die, he had offended two Immortal King experts, the Western Reverend and Tai Muqiang. Even if he entered the Immortal Court, he would not be able to move an inch. Time's up. Needless to say, to Eastern Venerable One, it was truly a case of misfortune. The Venerable of the North said to him expressionlessly, "Damn it." Dongfang Venerable cursed in his heart. According to the agreement, once the time was up, the Venerable One of the North would remain neutral. Now that the agreed time had passed, it meant that he had to face pressure from both Tai Muqiang and the Western Venerable One. Even Xiao Duanya would give him some pressure. Damn it. How unlucky. Dongfang Venerable One was so angry that his nose became crooked. He was so angry that he wanted to send a voice transmission to Chen Kun. Hold on. No matter what, you have to kill Ningyu forcefully. Otherwise. Puff. However, before Dongfang Venerable could finish his words, he felt a sweetness in his throat and a stream of blood spurted out. It was obvious. Xiao Duanya had made his move. Looking at Dongfang Venerable One coldly, Xiao Duanya said calmly, "I've said before that no one is allowed to participate in the battle between Ningyu and Chen Kun. Do you want to go in and spar with Ningyu?" Swoosh. Xiao Duanya's slightly threatening words caused Dongfang Venerable One to immediately become obedient. In front of absolute power, he did not dare to be impudent. If Chen Kun was killed by Ningyu, then even if he were to face Ningyu, he would not dare to say that he would be able to win. After all, his power was only slightly higher than Chen Kun's. At this moment, In the battlefield, there was suddenly a scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Without a doubt. That scream was made by Chen Kun. Just now, his right hand had been shattered by the sky-reaching disc, and now, his left hand had been shattered. Explode. In a moment of desperation, Chen Kun shouted loudly, wanting to undo the seal in his body. He was a Celestial King-level expert. The reason why he was suppressed by Ningyu was, in his opinion, because he had suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage, half a step to Celestial King level. As long as he undid the seal in his body, killing Ningyu would be a piece of cake. Breaking the rules, first warning. However, just as Chen Kun was about to undo the seal in his body, Xiao Duanya's cold voice sounded. Whoosh. Immediately after, a terrifying cold light suddenly shot out of the void and fiercely hit Xiao Duanya's chest. The huge force that came from his chest caused Chen Kun to fly out and crash heavily on the edge of the battlefield. Puff, puff, puff. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Chen Kun's aura, which was already weak, became even weaker. Whoosh. Ningyu did not care about Chen Kun's miserable state. He chased after him and instantly arrived beside Chen Kun. Don't kill me. I can give you everything I have. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to kill him, Chen Kun panicked and said hurriedly, also, I am the actual controller of the Chen family in Oriental City. As long as you let me go, I will make the Chen family listen to your orders. From now on, you can do whatever you want in Oriental City. Oh! Ningyu stopped in his tracks and looked at Chen Kun with interest. He said, what about the Eastern Venerable? I think he won't be satisfied if I do whatever I want in Oriental City. He wouldn't dare. I am a member of the Chen family. He definitely wouldn't dare to do anything to you. Chen Kun was already panicking. In order to survive, he dared to scheme against anyone, let alone the Eastern Venerable. Crack, crack, crack. Outside the battlefield, the Eastern Venerable clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. He had originally cooperated with Chen Kun to kill Ningyu and then recommend his own people to the Immortal Court. But now, Chen Kun's sudden betrayal had ruined his plan. How about this? Take out your things and give them to me first. Ningyu stretched out his right hand and said indifferently. Swish, swish. Chen Kun did not dare to delay and hurriedly threw 2 interspatial rings to Ningyu. Clap, clap. Ningyu reacted quickly and caught the interspatial rings before they fell to the ground. He released his perception and entered the interspatial rings. 5 ascension pills, an early stage Immortal King battle armor, and an early stage Immortal King flying sword. There were not many things in the interspatial rings, only these 3. But each of them was very valuable. Including the 2 ascension pills he had, Ningyu now had a total of 7 ascension pills. An early stage Immortal King flying sword was not particularly useful. After all, Ningyu had an intermediate stage Immortal King sky-reaching disc. But he could give it to the Red Devil to devour. An early stage Immortal King battle armor was not bad. Using it, he could block an all-out attack from an early stage Immortal King expert. Chen Kun could use these things to fight against the enemy in a normal battle. The key was that Chen Kun had suppressed his cultivation to a 4th stage half-step Immortal King. Moreover, Ningyu had defeated him, causing him to suffer in silence. Chapter 2401. Chapter 2401. Chapter 2401 Abnormal. Can I go now? Seeing Ningyu accept the 2 space rings, Chen Kun said cautiously, I have given you the things, and I will admit defeat. As long as you tell Xiao Duanya, I promise to leave immediately. Leave? Who said you can leave? Ningyu raised his eyebrows and said, I only said you give me the things first, I didn't say I would let you go. You. Chen Kun was furious. He had thought that after compromising, Ningyu would let him go. Who would have thought that Ningyu was far more terrifying than he had imagined, knowing that letting a tiger go back to the mountains would cause endless trouble? With a cold face, Chen Kun said in a deep voice, Tell me, what do you want? It's very simple. Open your mind and let me control you, Ningyu said with a shrug. Okay. Chen Kun nodded heavily, then closed his eyes and completely opened his mind. Chen Kun's action made Ning Yu a little confused. Logically, Chen Kun could not really open his mind and let him control it. Since Chen Kun did this, it meant that, thinking of this, Ning Yu's expression changed slightly and he hurriedly retreated. Swish. Ning Yu had just retreated a few steps when Chen Kun in the distance turned into a shadow and disappeared. Crack. At the same time, the void in front of him suddenly split open, and Chen Kun appeared from within. You are still too inexperienced to fight with me, Chen Kun shouted, then raised his right leg and kicked hard at Ning Yu's head. 5 promotion pills, an early-stage Celestial King armor, and an early-stage Celestial King flying sword. Just these 3 things could trick Ning Yu into letting his guard down. This was not a bad deal at all. Sky-reaching disc. At the moment of danger, Ning Yu took out the sky-reaching disc and put it in front of his head. I'm behind you. However, as soon as Ning Yu took out the sky-reaching disc, Chen Kun appeared behind him. This time, Chen Kun didn't hesitate to consume his blood essence to give Ning Yu a fatal blow. Immortal King battle armor. Ning Yu sensed that something was wrong. He hurriedly took out his Immortal King armor, intending to forcefully resist Chen Kun's kick. Catcher. His right foot came into contact with the Immortal King battle armor. Chen Kun was fine. However, the Immortal King battle armor had shattered right away. It's fake. In an instant, Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. Chen Kun was indeed up to no good. The Celestial King battle armor given to him was actually fake. One could imagine. If the Celestial King battle armor was fake, then the Celestial King flying sword and lifting Duan Dan were definitely fake as well. Energy. The information flashed across Ning Yu's mind. Following this, he unleashed all the energy stored in the cliff pool. Boom. In an instant, the energy exploded. The terrifying shockwave from the explosion sent Chen Kun flying, heavily crashing into the ground. Fart. Crimson blood spurted out. Chen Kun's entire aura dropped to the freezing point. You. Looking at Ning Yu with a cold expression, Chen Kun's eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. He really could not understand how Ning Yu could so easily block the punch that he had used all his strength. How could the energy that Ning Yu had unleashed just now be so terrifying? Swoosh. Just as Chen Kun was secretly pondering, Ning Yu had already arrived in front of him. With the previous lesson, this time, Ning Yu would not hold back. He directly took out the red demon sword and stabbed it straight into Chen Kun's heart. Kai. The devouring power shot out from the red demon sword and began to frantically devour the energy in Chen Kun's body. It did not take long. Chen Kun's entire body turned into human skin. Sho. Ning Yu squatted down and began to search Chen Kun's body. After a while, Ning Yu stood up and a space ring appeared in his hand. He released his perception and entered the storage bag. 10 ascension pills, 2 early-stage Immortal King battle armor, 1 early-stage Immortal King flying sword, as well as some scattered pills, medicinal herbs, and low-level magic treasures. Ning Yu nodded in satisfaction. These things were definitely real. I will keep the ascension pills, the Immortal King battle armor, and the flying sword and other things for Red Demon to devour. Ning Yu quickly made a judgment. Other than the ascension pills and the Immortal King battle armor, he would give everything else to Red Demon. However, Ning Yu had obviously overestimated the Dark Emperor and the others. As soon as those things entered the Red Demon sword, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu began to fight over them. Forget it. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and didn't bother with them. Crack. At this moment, a crack appeared on the battlefield, and Ning Yu walked out from it. Ning Yu, you're finished. If you dare to kill Chen Kun, no one in the world can save you. Seeing Ning Yu come out, the Eastern Venerable's face was extremely cold, and he said fiercely, Chen Kun is the immortal king of the Immortal Court's Chen family. If you kill Chen Kun, it means that you have offended the Immortal Court's Chen family. To tell you the truth, in the Immortal Court's Chen family, there are many Immortal King experts like Chen Kun. Once you enter the Immortal Court, you will be hunted down by them. The Eastern Venerable's words were vicious, and coupled with the changes in his expression, it was a pity that he didn't study acting. Ningyu stopped beside the Eastern Venerable and said calmly, "Although I have just experienced a great battle, if someone insists on provoking me, I don't mind sparring with him. Of course, the premise is that he dares to suppress his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step immortal king realm." You. The Eastern Venerable was furious. Ningyu was obviously looking down on him, mocking him, and trying to provoke him. He took a deep breath. The Eastern Venerable gradually calmed down. Sparring with Ningyu at this time was obviously an irrational action. It would be fine if he won, but if he lost, he would be in an irrecoverable situation. You only know how to use your tongue. The Eastern Venerable snorted coldly, and said, "You could kill Qian Kun because he suppressed his cultivation to the 4th stage half-step immortal king realm. Stop. Stop." Ningyu raised his right hand and pressed it down slowly, and said, "A loss is a loss. How can there be so many IFS in this world? If you're not convinced, I'll wait and see. Otherwise, shut up. I'm so angry." The Eastern Venerable was provoked by Ningyu, and he was instantly enraged. He took a step forward and said coldly, "I want to spar with you, a battle of life and death." Whoosh. The Dongfang Venerable One's irrational behavior surprised the others. The Western Venerable and Tai Muqiang even thought that the Eastern Venerable had gone crazy. The Northern Venerable looked at Ningyu thoughtfully, and no one knew what he was thinking. The rules are the same as before. Whoever kills the other person will keep the other person's belongings. The Eastern Venerable looked at Ningyu provocatively, and said proudly, "Do you dare? Something's wrong." Ningyu did not answer the Eastern Venerable immediately. Instead, he released his senses and began to check the things he obtained from Qian Kun. There must be something wrong when something was abnormal. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.